up. Khan. All praise to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, brothers Abba Yallah.
Brother Marquas.
Coming back at you with another cold cut W fight history. Cut Slock. It took some time, had some things we had to figure out through the spirit, feast days, and it's the new moon. Speaking of feast days, it's the new moon. Shar Kadash Yarak, right? Shar new moon. Right, Don Israel, a Shar new moon. All praise to Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shah. I know some brothers and sisters may have to work this day, but Lord willing, you keeping the new moon in honesty and sincerity through the spirit. I know brothers did last night. All praises, man. But we're going to get into the history of the Grecians, Alexander the Freak, and more, covering up this history. And as always, we got to get the preliminary precepts to kind of show why we got to get into this history, why it's important to touch on this history through the spirit, man. Let me pull this up real quick. It's very important that we get into this history. All right. Go to Job chapter 8 and verse number 8. Got to get the precepts again, man. All right. It's Job chapter 8 and verse number 8. And it says, I'm going to read in the NLT. And it says, just as the previous generation, pay attention to the experience of our ancestors. So the biggest thing is we have to pay attention to the experience of our ancestors. Now, during the Grecian Empire, what happened? We learned about what happened to the Persians and Esther, Mordecai, the rebuilding of the Second Temple. We didn't even dive deep into the rebuilding of the Second Temple, but you had Zerubbabel, you had Joshua, the high priest. You had Haggai, the prophet that was exhorting the nation. You had a lot of our forefathers that was there during that time. You had Nehemiah, you had Ezra, right? So after that, what happened? Did our people just disappear when the so-called white man came on the scene? Did our people just die? The so-called white man makes it seem like we weren't there. Where was our people at? Now we're going to go into it. We're going to pay attention to the experience of our ancestors that lived during the Grecian Empire. Where were they? What were they doing? How was life like? Were they free as they were in the Persian Empire, or were they more in servitude and bondage? We're going to search these things out. Why? Because the reason why, let me go to Romans chapter 15 and verse 4 in the NLT. Romans 15 and 4, such things were written in the scriptures long ago to teach us. These things were written in the scriptures long ago to teach us. The apocryphal books. We have to learn what's going on in the apocryphal books because it has certain history in there, as specifically the Greek history. And the scriptures give us hope and encouragement as we wait patiently for God's promise to be fulfilled. So these things, it gives us patience, it gives us encouragement to see how our people live during these times. And our people live during these times were way much worse with persecution than how we live now. So that's what gives us hope to see how they live during those times. And how we live now and how we can learn from those things. But you got it.
That's right. Let's go to you go to 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 1. All right, so let me back off the brother point. These are the times where you want to go back into that history and search out your fathers, like I put out in Job chapter 8 and verse number 8. And Peter, and we read all throughout the Bible, it's the same message. Job, he lived during the time of the sons of God, and he even told himself and his children and the men around him to search out his fathers. Peter, during the time of the Roman Empire, it's the same spirit. So that lets you know how important it is to know certain history. Because if you don't know your past and what happened in the past and where you come from, then how are you going to know where you're going? So this is 2 Peter chapter 3 and verse number 1. It says, this second epistle, beloved, I write now unto you, and both which I stir up your pure minds by the way of remembrance. And Peter, he had to stir up the church by way of remembrance. Because again, the crowd that he's going to and that he's addressing, they're the circumcision. I believe Paul was sent to the uncircumcision, Peter to the circumcision. Let me check that real quick. Galatians chapter 2 and verse 7. Just so I make sure I'm right. Right, Galatians. You don't got to pull it on the screen. But this Galatians 2 and verse 7. Right, it says, but contrariwise, when they saw that the gospel of the uncircumcision was committed unto me, and the gospel of circumcision unto Peter. So Peter, he had to Peter was with the gospel of the circumcision. He had to teach the men that knew that they were Jews, but he had to tell them and remind them to what? Remember the things of old, remember the past, remember where you come from, remember the prophecies. Because a lot of the circumcision, they didn't believe on the prophecies of, well, they didn't believe on Yahweh. So Peter, by convincing them, he had to stir their minds up by way of remembrance. Us in so-called 2024, we got to store up our minds, back to the remembering the things of old, the days of old. Because at once upon a time, we knew this history. All right, we knew where we were. We knew what, kind of went down with scholars on a high level, A, B, and C. But through slavery, captivity, oppression, those things have been stripped away from us. I got one more precept. Let's go to Psalms 77 and 5. All right, Psalms chapter 77 and verse number 5, and it reads, I have considered the days of old, the years of ancient times. I call to remembrance my song in the night. I commune with my own heart, and my spirit made diligent search. And that's how we got to be. David said his spirit, it made diligent search to find out what was going on. And that's how we got to be. Our spirit got to have that zeal and that diligent search to find out and search out what's really going on. All right, like the brother said, where our people were, Hasmonean dynasty, how these certain kingdoms came into play. And also, when you go into this history, you kind of studying your enemy. So you want to study your enemy and see the different things that he's done throughout history to conquer, to be able to conquer, and through that, that's the mindset of warfare. And you come back that with the precepts, the spirit of Yahweh, and you get to, learn more about your enemy and how he moves and how he thinks. And that fourth gives you wisdom on how you move, with your enemy. But you got it.
Let me go to Wisdom of Solomon 6 and 1. Because aren't we kings? We got to know this. How do you not want to know the accounts of our? In the Most High, he dealt with the kings of these other nations, man. Didn't in Ezra chapter 1 and verse 1 down to verse 3, Ezra said, the Lord God have given me all the kingdoms of the world, so I'm charging to rebuild at Jerusalem, paraphrasing. That's in the first book. That's in the first book of Ezra. These kings, they knew your history. They knew who your God was. Even though they served idol gods, they knew who your God was, man. And they knew who the true God was. They didn't say Bel and the dragon allowed me to they didn't say Bel allowed me to rule all these kingdoms. They said the Most High God did. So they knew. You don't think Alexander the Freak knew who the Most High was? And we're going to go into it. Oh, he knew who the Lord was. He knew who the Lord was. But do we know these things? This Wisdom of Solomon 6 and 1. Hear therefore, O you kings, and understand. Learn, ye that be judges of the earth. The Lord said, learn, you that be judges. You got to learn these things. How you want to judge in the kingdom of heaven? You want to have a throne, be part of the 144,000, judge the nations. But you don't learn anything in this life. You don't know any history in this life. You can't really, understand. The Lord said, understand. But we don't understand certain dates and time periods and how long ago this was. You just all you want to do is put Esau in captivity all day. So all you want to do, you read Revelations 13 and 9. Damn, you teach for an hour. The 40 minutes of that you teach, you pull out Revelation 13 and 9. That's all you do. You got to pull out some history. You got to pull out some facts. You got to understand what this is going into. Verse 2, give ear, you that rule the people, and glory in the multitude of nations. So let me get one more precept, and we can hop into it. I'm going to have you kick it off. Right? Let's go to Ezra. Ezra. Chapter 6. Because let's see a ruler that understood history, and as a king, is a heathen. He went into the records before he made a decision. It's Ezra 6 and 1. Then Darius the king made a decree, and search was made in the house of the rolls where the treasures were laid up in Babylon. And there was found at Akmatha in the palace that is in the province of the Medes a roll, and there was a record that's written. And then he read the record. He read the roll. Certain matters was given into him, and then he made his decree. Verse 7, let the work of the house of God alone, let the governor of the Jews and the elders of the Jews build this house of God in his place. Moreover, I make a decree, what you shall do to the elders of these Jews for the building of this house of God, they have the king's good, even of the tribute beyond the river, for with expenses be given unto these men that they be not hindered. So he went into the roles, he went into the history, and went into the search to see if these matters were true or not. If he didn't know that history, he wouldn't, I mean, the temple wouldn't have gotten rebuilt for the second time. What if he just said, no, I don't want to hear it, I don't care what they said before? No, he searched the records and searched the roads. How much more us as the sons of God? You go to Proverbs chapter 25 and verse number 2. Proverbs chapter 25 and verse 2. And it says, it is the glory of God to conceal a matter, but the honor of kings is to search out a matter. So you have a lot of history in the Bible, but you would never know that this history was in the scriptures unless you search it out. You wouldn't know that the prophecies in Daniel chapter 7, Daniel chapter 8 was talking about these empires that were ruling, or Daniel chapter 2, right? With the statue. You wouldn't know that if you wasn't a king to search out these matters. If you was waiting on somebody to give it to you, that's not how it works. If you're a king, you're going to search out the matter like these heathen kings did, even much more because we're the Israelites. So we got to understand these things. All right, but you got it. I can pull up the first article if you want me to.
Kanye, you can pull it up. For the spirit. Right, so we kind of touched on this last week. Right, so we kind of touched on this last week, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. But be at the transitional period with the wars from the Persian Empire to the Grecian Empire. Yeah, from Persian to the Greeks. And during that time period, you got something called the Greco-Persian Wars. Now, the Greco-Persian Wars is when, I'm going to read it, but to give a brief summary, is when the Persians tried to expand their kingdom further, right, further west to overtake the Greeks in that Macedonian Grecian area in the Greek city-states. You know, but the Most High, through the Spirit, he had the bounds kind of stopped when it came to Persia. So the Greco-Persian Wars from 492 to 449 BC or 449 BC. It says series of wars fought by Greek states and Persia over a period of almost half a century. The fighting was most intense during two invasions that Persia launched against its mainland, Greece, between 490 and 479. Although the Persian Empire was at the peak of its strength, the collective defense mounted by the Greeks overcame seemingly impossible odds and even succeeded in liberating Greek city-states on the fringe of Persia itself. The Greek triumph ensued the survival of Greek culture and political structures long after the demise of the Persian Empire. So I want to get this quick precept right in the book of Job. So Persia, they tried to extend their lot, for lack of better terms, and try to overcome the Greeks. But this is the book of Job. Let me find this quick precept. Right. That precept, the Most High said is bounds to where he cannot.
14.
You said what?
Job 14 and 5.
Yeah, yeah. It's the book of Job, chapter 14 and verse 5. It says, seeing his days are determined, the number of his months are with thee. Thou hast appointed his bounds that he cannot pass. So every kingdom the Most High set and appointed a lot to where they have to rule and give them a specific area. The reason why certain kingdoms, and the real reason why no kingdom has ever ruled the whole earth is because the Most High has set their bound in one specific area. There's not been one kingdom that actually ruled over the whole earth in every land, literally. Not even Babylon the Great. Babylon the Great doesn't have rule over Russia. They don't have dominion over China. They don't have dominion over, certain countries. But that's because the Most High set their bounds. The same thing with the kingdoms of old. So you can go back to that article. You can actually pull up a map. I want to pull up a map of the Persian Empire, so you can get a kind of like a visual of what's going on. right? So that's the map of the Persian Empire. And if you kind of look up to the corner of the left-hand side, where you see Thrice, a little bit lower, right across from Lydia, you see Greece, right? Yeah. So that's the area that, Darius the third wanted to overtake, and that was the area that a lot of the Persian kings tried to overtake during the early time of the Greco-Persian Wars. But the Most High had that little kingdom kind of overtake this whole plot of orange, this whole big space of orange that you see. And that really showed the power of the Most High. The Most High can raise up a small, divided city states to overtake a strong military kingdom. So you can go back to the article. I just wanted to get that quick visual real quick. So you had big city states, and that's why they're kind of hyping it up right here because it was a big deal. I'm gonna read the next part, and then we can get to the next article. You can scroll down a little bit. Yeah, comment right there. It says in 559, the establishment and expansion of the Achaemenid Empire. In 559 BC, the Persian Empire, Cyrus II found. Well, we already touched on that. So, but the main point that I wanted was really the first part on how those wars kind of kicked off, and through those series of wars, that's how you had the conflict with Persia and Greece, and that's the beginning of the turning stages of how Persia ended up falling to the Grecians or the Greek city states. So you can go to the next article, and I'm gonna get a quick precept while you go into the next article. And Sirach, the 10th chapter. It's the book of Sirach, chapter 10, and verse number 6. It says, I'm gonna start at verse 6. Sirach 10 and 6. It says, "Be not hatred to thy neighbor for every wrong, and do nothing at all by injurious practices. Pride is hateful before God and man, and by both doth one commit iniquity. Because of unrighteous dealings and riches gotten by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another." So by riches gotten by deceit, or injuries, that's how a kingdom is translated. The kingdom of Persia, that wasn't written, through the spirit and power of the Most High, through the laws, statutes, commandments, and ordinances. Whatever kingdom is not set up by the laws of the Lord and righteousness is not going to reign forever. That's why Yahweh and the kingdom of heaven is the only kingdom that's going to reign forever, because that's going to be the only kingdom documented ever that's been perfectly ran under the law, statutes, and commandments. All right, that's why you got the Davidic kingdom, right? And that whole sea line, they end up going off. The Lord shut that down. You had Northern Kingdom, they was going up. The Lord shut that down. You had all these ancient Gentile and heathen kingdoms that had their rulership. The Most High shut all of that down. Because it's ran by the Most High through the Spirit. Now you can go back to that to the second article that I had pulled up. The Battle of Isu. So the Battle of Isu is one of the chief battles that took place when Alexander came into power. All right, a lot of people just know about the Battle of Gaugamela, which is the decisive battle, but you had certain battles leading up to the Battle of Gaugamela. Like the map that the brother showed, Greece, they're all the way to the west. So if they're all the way to the west, they have to slowly conquer each main city as they push east. And one of the chief cities that they conquered, one of the chief battles that took place was the Battle of Isu. Right? So it says the Battle of Isu on November 5th, 333 BCE, was Alexander the Great's second battle against the Persian army and the first direct engagement with Darius III. So this battle, Slaki, give me 2 seconds.
You good?
So you had the battle with Darius III. Now this battle, what make this battle so unique is that this is the first battle where Alexander and Darius III actually seen each other, face to face on the battlefield. How Darius had his army set up, he was kind of encamped round about. He was in the middle. He was watching from afar off with his family. certain records have it to where Darius the Third, he wasn't never active in battle, but he always went to the battlefield to watch his army, kind of take the win. And that's that puffed up pride that he had, because again, he had the biggest kingdom on earth. Surely he wouldn't want against the little, Greek city states. So he would kind of go out to these battles and watch these kings get taken captive. And Alexander, on the other hand, was the complete opposite. Alexander, he actually was on the forefront of the battle, kind of like King David, but on the left hand side. All right, Alexander, he was the forefront of the battle. He led the army. So as this battle is going on, this is the first account of them seeing each other face to face. It says near the village of Isu in the southern modern day Turkey. It was a major victory for Alexander, defeating the Achaemenid Empire and causing Darius to flee the battlefield. The prelude, it says, after the death of his father. Do I want to read that? You can scroll down and see if it's, I don't want to,
God.
Let me see. All right, you can scroll back up to that second paragraph. I'm gonna read that real quick. The prelude. It says, after the death of his father and his ascension to the Achaemenid throne, to the Macedonian throne, Alexander's first order of business was to pursue his father's dream, right? The conquest of the Persian Empire. Right? Because we read the dates again, the Greco-Persian wars, that was early, in the 4th century BCE. But this is kind of going on, touching into the 3rd century now. So this is almost a whole century later. So as Alexander is conquering the Persians, he's remembering what his father wanted for the Xerxes, kind of kicking off that war and that conflict with the Greeks. It says using the excuse that he was seeking revenge for the invasion of Greece by Darius the First and Xerxes, right? Like how we just brought out. Alexander crossed the Hellespont into Asia Minor. As he moved southward, he defeated the Persian forces at Granicus and Halicarnassus. And we read this whole article, kind of touch on each, battle and how Alexander has slowly taken over chief cities as he's pushing eastward to the rest of the Persian Empire. You can go to the next article. So this is kind of like a build-up. These are certain battles that Alexander has to go through in order to take the throne of setting up the first kingdom of the Greeks. And that's what made that battle of Isu, so what I'm looking for. So kind of important, because again, during that battle, he ended up taking his wife and his daughter into captivity. And some even say that, he kind of got his wife pregnant, which is off.
Damn.
Yeah, that's off. So you get the next battle. This is one of the chief battles as well, the battle or the siege of Tyre. All right, the siege of Tyre. You can kind of zoom in. Possible. Okay, Con. All right, you got the siege of Tyre now. I believe you got to press the picture. Yeah.
I'm see.
Yeah, Con.
I got download it.
Sure.
Hold on, let me see. Let's see what happens. Yeah. You gotta abide by Esau's terms. You gotta continue. Damn, Esau. So, okay, we're gonna get this history for y'all. We're gonna get this. What is your primary occupation? What is this about?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
Why are we at it?
It's off.
That's evil. What do you mean? Why are we asking this?
It's off.
We're just trying to get some raw, uncut, unadulterated history of. I mean, they don't want you to see this. They don't want you to see this at all.
Yeah.
This is madness. Let me see. Please hold while we log you in. Yeah, log me in. We need to see if we see the chariots or not.
All type of getting questions. Why do you want to open up?
Well, we gotta have some elevator music. Nah, man, come on, let's go.
I try.
C4.
I just try doing download. Try doing the other one. Download PDF. Cause I just did it off my phone and it kind of went through. No, go up.
I did
Get
that.
it.
It was just
Oh, you did
loading.
that? Okay. Yeah, I just pressed it and it kind of took me right to it.
Yeah, it was just loading. Hold on, let me refresh the screen again. See, everything was going great until, hold on. Let me see. Oh, here we go, right here.
Okay, there we go.
Oh yeah, all praise to y'all.
Yeah. I don't pray. All right, so as you see in the title, it says that Alexander the Great really see UFOs. Now you gotta ask yourself, why is that a topic? Right? Why is that a topic? You see, you got people nowadays, they say, okay, you believe in UFOs, you're a conspiracy theorist, you're bugged out, you're going crazy in the head. That's just your eyes playing, that's just your mind playing tricks on you. But according to history, it's historical documented accounts that Alexander not only seeing UFOs, so-called UFOs, the chariots of the Lord, but that according to prophecy, the Lord actually had the chariots kind of help Alexander and his army take down Tyre. Now, before I read it, you can pull up a map of ancient Tyre, and I'm gonna bring out this quick precept after you bring it up. You had something called the Siege of Tyre. Tyre was one of the chief trading ports back in the ancient world, right off the coast of Lebanon. That's a good picture, right? Well,
Trying to get the specific. Which one?
you could go to the right a little bit. I kind of want to get yeah, that's good. That's good. I just zoom in.
Get them in their prime. You already know they was in their prime during the time of Ezekiel and Isaiah. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to get them in their, when the Lord was prophesying against them. That's how proud they was.
Yeah, I was gonna grab a quick precept on that after you pull it up, so you could. What they got them at on here?
Right here, Tyre is over here.
Right off the coast of Lebanon. So you can zoom in, and as you zoom in, they don't really got it on this, but Tyre is right off the coast of Lebanon, and it's a little island. There you go, right there at the bottom. That's a good picture too. But you could press that one, and then I'm gonna zoom one at the
Yeah,
bottom.
it's a great picture right here.
Yeah, Kyle.
Let's try to get in there. Yeah, that's because I want to show like literally off the island.
Yeah, Kyle. So you got Tyre, the ancient city of Tyre. Now, the picture that the brother showed before, Tyre is on the land and is right there, at Sidon, right off the coast of Lebanon. But you had a little island where they kind of moved to, and that was kind of their main spot for Tyre. And Tyre, when you read the precepts, is known for trade, for merchants, and it's also known for the walls that they had. They had these, great mighty walls where it was so mighty to where damn near throughout the whole precept, we read about Tyre, you read about the type of walls that they had, and you read about how great merchants they were in their naval force. They was mighty in war when it came to the waters. So this is an image of Tyre. Now, Tyre was actually prophesied in the Bible to fall down by Alexander the Great. Let's go to Isaiah, the 23rd chapter, at verse number 1. Let's go to Isaiah, the 23rd chapter. All right, this is the book of Isaiah, chapter 23, and verse number 1. It says, the burden of Tyre, how, ye ships of Tarshish, for it is laid waste. See that the Most High off bat, he's going into the ships, because again, Tyre, they're big on merchants, they're big on shipments and trade. So the Lord is saying, and read that again, the burden of Tyre, how, ye ships of Tarshish, for it is laid waste, so that there is no house, no entering in from the land of Shittim. It is revealed to them. Be still, ye inhabitants of the isles, thou whom the merchants of Zidon that pass over the sea have replenished. In that latter part on verse 21, it says what? From the land of Shittim, it is revealed to them. Well, you got to ask yourself, where did Alexander come from? All right, Alexander, he came from the land of Shinar. All right, you read that in the book of let's get that real quick in First Maccabees 101. All right, so the Most High prophesied from Shittim will Tyre fall. All right, this is the book of First Maccabees, chapter 1, right? And verse number 1. It says, and it happened after that Alexander, the son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Shittim, had smitten Darius, king of Persia and Medes, and he reigned in his stead the first over Greece. So out of Shittim is where Tyre's downfall will go to. So let's go back to Isaiah 23 real quick and finish out. And that whole Isaiah the 23rd chapter is going into the downfall of Tyre, its trade, Zidon, the Chaldeans, Syria, etc. We're not going to read the whole chapter, but I'm going to get a couple more verses. Right, verse 3, it says, right by the great waters, the seed of Sihor, the harvest of the river, is her revenue, and she is mark of nations. And again, Tyre, they were the mark. They were the marketplace of all the nations. It says, be thou ashamed, O Zidon, for the sea hath spoken, even the strength of the sea, saying, I travail not, nor bring forth children, neither do I nourish up young men, nor bring up virgins. As the report concerning Egypt, so shall they be sorely pained by the report of Tyre. Now, I want to go back to the article. So again, that whole chapter goes into the downfall of Tyre from the land of Shittim and what all took place. And this shows that the Most High hand was a part of it because Alexander and his men recorded quote-unquote UFOs. So this is among the famous historical stories. One referencing finds that unphonical literature and all over the internet is supposing UFO sightings of Alexander the Great. It apparently began in 1959 when American writer and broadcaster Frank Edwards wrote the following in his book, Stranger Than Science. It says Alexander the Great was the first to see them, or it's like he was not the first to see them, nor was he the first to find them troublesome. He tells of two strange crafts that divided repeatedly at his army until the war elephants, the men, and the horses all panicked and refused to cross the river bank. The incident occurred. What did the things look like? His historian describes them as great shining shields, spitting fire round the rims, things that came from the skies and returned to the skies. And those are about another account, right? So like you read about another account where they actually, broke down the walls of Tyre through the spirit. I'm gonna read on. It says, possibly inspired by Frank Edwards, claimed that Alberto Fenagolo wrote in 1966 the Italian unphonical periodical site. How do you say that? Clypheus. Right there during the siege of Tyre and the war 332 BCE. It says strange flying objects were observed. Right, Joanne, Gustave, right, Josine, in the history of Alexandria the Great. Right. I'm not even gonna try to say that. It says, right, I'm gonna try to read it. Steve Alexander de Grocine, 1833, does not cite the intentional believing to be fantasy of the Macedonian soldiers. The fortress would not yield. Its walls were 50 feet high and constructed so solidly, right? Because again, the walls of Tyre, they were, high stature walls. It says 50 feet high and constructed so solidity that no siege engine was able to damage it. The Tyrrhenians disposed of the greatest technicians and builders of war machines at that time, and they intercepted in the air Gotta kind of zoom in, Salakia. Right, and they kind of intercepted in the air, and Derisi arrows, Salakia for the pronunciation, and projectiles hurled by the catapults of the city. So they had high level of armory back then. They were able to intercept, certain catapults and things like that, which is very high tech for, a time period like this. It says one day suddenly there appeared over the Macedonian camp these flying shields. All right, now what are flying shields? So-called UFOs, as we know, as the chariots of the Most High. And how many times Tyre is mentioned of in the Bible and in destruction, namely Isaiah the 23rd chapter, the Most High already said in times of old that these things will happen. Isaiah lived around the 6th century. This is being prophesied around the 6th century, and it came to pass all the way during the 2nd century. Reading on, it says, as they have been called, which flew in triangular formation, right, in battle formation, led by an exceeding large one. The others were smaller by almost a half, and all others were 5. It says the unknown chronicler narrates that they circled slowly over Tyre, while thousands of old warriors on both sides stood still and watched them in astonishment. So you had the 3 chariots in the sky, our triangular formation and battle formation. They was kind of circling over, right? And it was so amusing that everyone on both sides of the battle kind of stopped, right, and kind of looked at it. Because again, when you see a chariot, that's no small deal. It's literally the Lord and His presence watching over them, and they're being able to see these things. So for people that say, okay, if you believe in UFOs, you're going off, you're crazy in the head if you think Bible talk about UFOs. Well, someone got to break this down. Why did Alexander, the Tyrannus, and the men see these things in battle? Reading on, it says, right, what I leave off? It says, suddenly from the largest quote-unquote shield came a lightning flash that struck the walls. These crumbled. Other flashes followed, and walls and towers dissolved. So you have the chariots, they kind of shot at the walls of Tyre. And guess what happened? The walls, they fell. All right, the walls of Tyre, these great walls that they had, they fell and collapsed because prophecy had to be fulfilled. This is not saying that Alexander was righteous, that the Lord was dealing with him on the right-hand side, and he is the elect because the Lord fought for him in battle. No, what they're saying is that the Lord, through prophecy having to come to pass, the Tyranians, their defense mechanism was so on point. So they had their walls, they had certain machinery, that they could block down catapults, and that island that they was on, and made it hard for anyone to overtake them. So the Lord had to intervene and actually shoot down the wall. It says, right, it says, leaving the open for the besiegers who poured like an avalanche through the breaches. The quote-unquote flying shields hovered over the city until it was completely stormed. Then they were swiftly disappeared aloft, soon melting into the blue sky. And for anyone that's ever seen chariots before, you know that chariots, they're known for doing that. You see them in the sky, they may appear close up, trying to zoom in on your phone. Then all of a sudden they disappear. I know me personally, I've seen a couple of chariots where you kind of see them in the sky, whether it's nighttime or whether it's daylight out. You may see them real quick, then they just kind of shoot out, they disappear. In this account, you had 3 chariots, all hell broke loose. You had the big one in front, military formation, circling around the city, shot the wall down. The Macedonians, they entered into the wall, all hell broke loose. They besieged it, and the chariots kind of went away. Prophecy was fulfilled. That's the spirit of the Most High. I want to get a quick precept on that. Right. Let's go to, it's many precepts. I don't want to get too many precepts on chariots, but I want to go to the classic and Psalms 104. We get like 3 precepts. All right, this is the book of Psalms, chapter 104, and verse number 3. It says, who layeth the beams of his chambers in the waters, who maketh the clouds his chariots, who walketh upon the wings of the wind. Right, and that's plain. I'm gonna read verse 4. It says, who maketh his angel spirits, his ministers a flaming fire. So you have chariots in the Bible. Chariots are, again, so-called, quote-unquote, UFOs, believe it or not. All right, they're prophesied to come back. Read Revelation 1:7. The Most High is going to send his son Yahushua to come back in the clouds, man. Right? To destroy this place. Let's go to First Maccabees. Or Second Maccabees, chapter 3. All right, let's go to Second Maccabees, chapter 3. Even during the time of the Greeks, you had chariots in the sky. All right, it's the book of Second Maccabees, chapter 3, and verse number, let me see where I want to start at. With Heliodorus. First Maccabees, chapter 3, and verse, we had three chariots, kind of, or three horses. I'm gonna start at verse number 25. I'm gonna start at verse 24, right? It's the book of First Maccabees, chapter 3, and verse 24. It says, now was there present himself with the guard about the treasury, the Lord of spirits and the prince of all powers, caused a great admiration. And that's what happened when you read the article. A great admiration happened. It says caused a great admiration. So that all that presumed to come in with them were astonished at the power of God. And we read that it said all of them, they kind of stopped and they looked up. They stopped fighting. They stopped going to war. They seen the presence of the Most High, and they kind of just froze. That's what the quote that the brother said, early in the video. That's how you know Alexander, he actually knew about the Most High. Yeah, they had their Greek gods, they had Zeus and Poseidon, and they had Hercules and all these, all this madness. Nevertheless, every nation, there's an account of them actually knowing who the true God really is. We didn't know, and it says, and they were sore afraid. And we read this, it's like the same spirit back over. It says, for there appeared unto them an horse with a terrible rider on it, which is an angel, and adorned with a very fair covering. He ran fiercely and smote Heliodorus with the forefront of his feet. And it seemed that he had sat upon the horse had complete harness of gold. And we know that that horse that was talked about in the article, that had a complete harness of silver. All right, and again, those are the chariots of the Most High. This is not some mythical creature like damn Bigfoot. No, these are historical accounts. The chariots of the Lord are 10,000, even thousands, roughly paraphrasing Psalms, are around Mount Sinai. But you got it, though. Yeah, the precept.
Yeah, and I mean, these chariots have been all throughout history. Like the brother said in Second Maccabees, we go to Second Maccabees chapter 5. Let me start at verse 1. And this is during the time of Antiochus or Antiochus IV, right? Epiphanes, right? And it says about the same time Antiochus prepared his second voyage into Egypt. So he's going back into Egypt, and then it happened because remember they were warring after the Levant with Ptolemy III, and it says, and then it happened that through all the city for the space almost of 40 days. So almost 40 days, there was seen horsemen running in the air and clothed of gold and armed with lances like a band of soldiers. So they seen the Most High doing war drills or war games, like how these nations do war games. These nations do war drills to kind of show off their military might, right? The Lord was actually doing war games and war drills in the third heaven during this time. And troops of horsemen in array encountering and running one against another with shaking of shields and multitudes of pikes. These are weapons, shields, pikes, like pikes are like long sticks, and drawing of swords and casting of darts and glittering of golden ornaments and harness of all sorts. Wherefore every man prayed that the apparition might turn to good, because we know that Alexander the Freak or the Great was a man of war. We know that Antiochus was a so-called man of war, but ultimately the Most High was showing that he's a man of war. The Lord, the apparitions, different chariot sightings, all these different things were happening even in the days of old, even in the ancient days. The Lord was conducting war games in the third heavens before the children of men. And it was so grievous for them to see that they prayed that the apparition or that the vision or that the thing that they were seeing turned to good. You know, so these things are nothing new. This isn't, oh, well, I seen a chariot. That's the first time. No, they've been seeing chariots. These heathens know who the Most High is. They know exactly they know exactly who Yahweh Shem Yahushua is, man. Like the brother went into it. Those chariots helped destroy Tyre and Zidon, and Alexander the Freak built the land bridge, man, from where he was at into Tyre, and guess what? And overthrew them as well. And we're gonna, Lord willing, further on continue into that, you know. But let me get one more precept. It's kind of going into the chariots. Actually, go to Isaiah chapter 45. Isaiah chapter 45. See if this is what I want. Isaiah chapter 45. I believe this is what I want. In verse 1. Right? Just give an example, right, of the Lord can use any one of his creations to fulfill his will. This Isaiah 45 and 1. Thus saith the Lord to his anointed, to Cyrus, whose right hand I have holden, to subdue nations before him, and I will loose the loins of kings, to open before him the two leaf gates, and the gate shall not be shut. And here comes a Christian somewhere that doesn't even believe in the Old Testament. They're going to point at this verse and say, see that? Cyrus was the anointed. The Lord held a heathen's right hand. No, all it means that, hey, guess what? The Lord made him do what he wanted him to do. The Lord made Cyrus do what he wanted him to do. That's what it means he have holding his right hand, meaning he has control over Cyrus. And guess what? He subdued the nations before him, just like the Lord subdued the nations before Alexander the Great. The Lord had them walls with Tyre was monumental. Everybody knew about those walls. Guess what? Yahweh Shem Yahushua shut down those walls so he can make Alexander the Greek do his thing, man. And guess what? The Lord can also loose the loins of kings before other kings, just like he did Alexander the Freak. Let me go to the book of 2 Chronicles real quick. All right, let's get the book of 2 Chronicles chapter, see, this is what I want, chapter 33. Actually, it's 2 Chronicles chapter 34. See what I want, right? Because the Lord also was dealing with Pharaoh when you go into it. The Lord was dealing with Pharaoh at the battle of Carchemish, right? Let me see. 2 Chronicles chapter 35. And I'm going to start at verse number maybe 36. It's all good. I actually get the book of First Ezra. That's probably,
I think you read right over.
Yeah, the Lord was dealing with Pharaoh during the battle of Carchemish, and then you had Josiah. I didn't see it in there. I was trying to scroll down in 35.
Yeah, it was verse 1. But it's in this account too, though.
I ain't gonna lie, I like the First Ezra's account. Kind of get a little bit more in depth. But this is First Ezra chapter 1, and I'm gonna start at verse number 26. I'm sorry, verse number 25. And it says, now after all these actions of Josiah's, it came to pass that Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, right? This is going into Pharaoh Necho, right? During this time, came to rise war at Carchemish upon Euphrates. the king Pharaoh Necho, king of Egypt, was going against the Babylonians or Nebuchadnezzar during this time when Nebuchadnezzar was going on the siege, the battle of Carchemish. And Josiah went out against him. But the king of Egypt sent him to say, what have I to do with thee, O king of Judah? Am I not sent out from the Lord God against thee? For my war is upon the Euphrates, and now the Lord is with me. How did this heathen king know who the Most High was? He knew that the Lord was using him to go out to Nebuchadnezzar, but he didn't know the Lord was using him to get destroyed before Nebuchadnezzar. He just knew the Lord was having him go out into fighting battle, right? And he acknowledged that. He said, yea, the Lord is with me, hasting me forward. Depart from me and be not against the Lord. So the Lord can use his will with these heathen kings to fulfill his purpose. That doesn't mean the Lord is dealing with them like the children of Israel. It's not what that's saying. The Lord can use whoever he wants to use. Isn't the Lord dealing with damn Xi Jinping over there in China, right, to stir themselves up against America? Isn't the Lord using damn Putin to stir himself up against the beast Babylon? The Lord is using these kings to stir themselves up against each other. How do you think the Lord is going to get these nations into the valley of Yehoshaphat in Joel, the 3rd chapter? His heart, their heart has to be in the hands of the Lord. And this is all during times past. Let me get one more. It's Proverbs chapter 21:1. And it says, the king's heart is in the hand of the Lord, in the rivers of water. He turneth it whithersoever he will. So the Lord does what he wants with the minds of these kings to fulfill his purpose. For some of them to prevail in certain battles, and for some of them to lose in certain battles, so his judgments can play out. But you got it. You want to go back to the article? Can you hear me, King? Or you may be on mute.
Kanye, you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I actually wanted to touch on the causeway that Alexander made, touching on Tyre. Because the image that we showed again, Tyre, it was on it's an island. So if the Mossad kind of blew the walls down there, how were they able to kind of get over there? So Alexander, as you see right here, it says, does it say damn? It's kind of blurry on my hand.
Yep.
But you see, it says Alexander's dam. Now, this wasn't originally here. All right, Alexander kind of built that. You have something called a causeway, where he actually made like a land bridge, for lack of better terms, to storm Tyre. You know, so just to add that part in there too. And some sources even say that when he took down Tyre, you know, instead of just besieging the city and taking everyone captive, you know, he said he lost so many men. He was so furious that after he went in there, that he killed all the men. All right, he killed, you know, all the men, and he took all the women captive. You know, so that shows how bloodthirsty Alexander was to take down Tyre as well. The man made a damn land bridge, walked over there. Mosai blew the walls down. He entered in and took everyone captive. You know, but that was a quick point I just wanted to make on there too. You know,
and that wasn't hard, and that wasn't easy. That wasn't an easy thing. Tyre. I mean, imagine being on an island with high walls. I mean, there's no F-32 fighter jet flying in there, man. Everybody was on foot. And chariots, man. There's no chariots, right? They didn't have any navy fleets like Babylon the Great today. So how was you getting from here to here? And you got these high walls. You wasn't getting in here. There was technically untouchable.
It's like you could go to the images of the Alexander's causeway, the causeway specifically. I think it's called causeway. You can type in Alexander Causeway and then go to images.
How you spell
that? Cause, C-A-U-S-E, and then way, W.
Alexander's called Alexander the Great.
Causeway, yeah.
His military conquest.
Not C-A-U-S-E. You put C-A-U-L-S.
Oh. C-A-U-C-S?
Not cause like because, but cause C-A-U-S-E. Yeah, cause, there you go. They got that's a good image right there, the one right to the right of it.
Right here?
Yeah, cause they can pop that up. So this kind of get like a visual, you know, how it kind of look like. So imagine you see an army. You gotta imagine Tyre right now. I mean, they had to have been scared out their pants, man. You see this army, the Grecians, upcoming in war, all right, led by Alexander the Free, the Sodomite, leading and making a land bridge. And like it's not easy making land on top of water. That's a real laborer's work. And as you're making the land on top of water, you get shot at. You're getting catapulted, getting bow and arrows shot at you. And at the top, you see chariots So the Most High wasn't playing around, man. This all is the work of the Lord right here. So that's why, when by the time they made it to this point, probably they seen the chariots and all hell finna break loose. Lord shot these walls down that they got built up on this island, and the rest is history. So this would be like more of a visual of how that causeway would look. And one a skinny bridge, like how they be showing in certain movies, how you got the smaller type wooden bridge. And now this thing was a real road. They was building a road to overtake these people, this little island. Because again, that island was heavy on trade. So if they would have took that island down there, that's that much more trade and resources and merchants and money that the Grecians can make off that, little port right there, so called. But that's a quick point I wanted to make on there.
Yeah.
The next you got Gaugamela. I don't know if you wanted to touch on Gaugamela.
Yeah, I got that through the spirit. Let me see. Put this right here. Yeah, and that's 331 BC. This is 331 BC, the Battle of Gaugamela, or the Battle of Arbela. And guess what? And a lot of people are not going to know this was actually on October 1st, 331 BC, or 2,335 years ago, right? As of what? Literally 30 days ago, man. 30 days ago, it was the anniversary of Battle of Gaugamela. 2,335 years ago, And this is when the two great armies drew up for battle to determine the destiny of empires, meaning guess what? Was the Persians in the Achaemenid Empire was going to continue to expand through Greece, Macedonia, eventually hitting Rome, maybe Spain? Were they going to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger? Or was the Macedonians, the Greeks, going to come into power? Which one was it? And we're going to read about this battle, and we're going to read about this decisive battle that happened, a turning point in so-called Edomite history, man, where the Persians got kicked off the scene, and it started the damn Edomite rule, man, from Alexander the Freak to Joe Biden. Damn. From Alexander the Freak to Joe Biden. You had the damn Alexander the Great, and then now you have a man that can't speak 3 words.
Right? Falling off bikes.
Yeah. Falling off stairs. Hey, he used to build land bridges. Now he's falling off stairs, man.
I believe they got to count him falling up the stairs. Then he got one where he fell down the stairs.
Fell to the side of the stairs. The man fell with no stairs. He fell with the stairs in front of him.
I believe he fell off the bike and the bike wasn't even moving. He just sitting on it and the bike just fell over.
He was sitting down. He looked at some stairs and then just fell. Wow.
Yeah, it's finished.
Yeah, he's finished. It went from Alexander the Freak, the Battle of Gaugamela, to Destiny of Empires, to the destruction of the so-called white man. What a scene the Lord has played on Esau.
And quick point too, and like how we said earlier before he started the video, Alexander, he was 20 years old when he began conquering. He's known as the #1 war general throughout history. Known, for Esau at that, we got King David, we got Joshua, we got the righteous, we got Hannibal. Yeah, that's madness. But for them, they're top so-called top dog is Joe Biden. Or really, Alexander the Great. And he conquered the so-called known world in under 10 years? And he's their God now. And like the brother said, he went from Alexander the Great, young 20-year-old, in shape king, to this child molester. I believe he got a video saying how he liking when children rub the hairs on his legs. I don't know if you've seen that, but they got a video saying, he was getting interviewed and it kind of slipped out his mouth. So I like it when children kind of rub the hairs on my legs. Wow. So this is their king now. This is the king of America.
Is he building the land bridge and he's gonna destroy Putin with a sword? Is that guy gonna do it for you? Is he gonna send damn Navy fleets in? Is he gonna come up with a master plan? Is this him? What about him? They love this guy. What about him? Is he gonna do it? The one that almost got shot in the head?
Multiple times.
Give me the account where Alexander almost got shot in the head.
I mean, oh yeah, didn't they try to assassinate Trump, what, 3 times now?
Yeah.
2 or 3 times already.
See
Not
that?
even president again. They already trying to, kind of.
The Most High got him escaping death just to prove a point. See, the Lord got him escaping death. I can see at least that from Trump. The Lord got him escaping death. He may be used for something great in the future to fulfill prophecy. So we're not gonna get on him as much. But this guy, he has no use. He has zero use other than to afflict the children of Israel. That's his job. So Esau, you went from ruling and starting off your empire mighty, strong, right? To then falling off stairs, man. Let me get one precept real quick before we continue on this article. All right, let me get one precept. Let me go to Isaiah chapter 47, Bible Kashaf. Right, Isaiah chapter 47, and I will start at verse 1. Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Sit on the ground. There is no throne, or daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate. So yeah, Esau, you used to be called tender and delicate. You used to be that woman everybody desired, but the Lord said that would no more happen. Right? Your glory days are over. Take the millstone and grind meal, uncover thy locks and make bare the leg, uncover the thigh, pass over the rivers. Thy nakedness shall be uncovered, yea, thy shame shall be seen. I will take vengeance, and I will not meet thee as a man. As for our Redeemer, the Lord of hosts is his name, the Holy One of Israel. So the Lord, he did this. He declined Esau's power from this state to Freaky Joe's estate. But look, we can go back to that article. So this is over 2,335 years ago. The anniversary was 30 days ago. Now, the Battle of Gaugamela began on the morning of October 1st, 331, when two great armies drew up for the battle to determine the destiny of empires. 3 years later, before an army of Macedonians and Greeks had crossed to Asia behind the young king of Macedonia, Alexander III, known better to history as Alexander the Great, right? The brilliant youth had led his army across Asia Minor and into the Levant, into Egypt. The Levant is where Israel is, right? Into Egypt, defeating the two Persian armies in two great battles. At the Granicus River in 334 is what is now Turkey. And a year later at the Issus River, right, the brother just went into this battle, the Battle of Issus, near where Turkey, Syria, and Mediterranean come together, right? That's a very huge battle against the Persians. And now the Battle of Gaugamela is another huge battle, right? Alexander had been incredibly successful so far. He has seized every opportunity that had presented itself, and in 2 years has secured control of the western provinces of the Persian Empire. In Egypt, he was hailed as a god by a priesthood and populace weary of centuries of disrespectful Achaemenid Persian rule, right? The Egyptians, they hated the Achaemenid rule towards the end, right? Because they got oppressive. So what the Egyptians started to do, they started to hail Alexander the Freak as a god, man. This is the first account of the so-called white man being worshipped as a god. Way before Caesar Borgia, way before the Roman Catholic Church. This is the first account of a nation, Hamites, bowing down to Esau. So you Hamites, you always bow down to Esau. That's why they were in your land now, taking all types of resources and goods, because when Alexander the Great stepped on the scene, y'all started bowing down to this man as a god, and y'all never look back. Y'all never look back. Now they bowing down to Putin. Right? But y'all never look back. Now y'all started worshiping this man as a god, man. So you Hamites, man. Right? But it says Alexander had gained a territory of his own for larger than any Greek had ever ruled. But his mission remained incomplete. He had not come to Asia merely to win an empire, but to deal a death blow to the Persians, who had menaced Greek freedom and culture since the days of Darius and Xerxes over a century and a half before, right? The Greco-Persian wars, right? Where before this point.
I had a quick point.
Khan, you got it.
Khan, so like I was gonna say real quick too. That's why that Egyptians, they named that certain area over there in Egypt. It was like northern Egypt, so that's why they named it Alexandria, because they, kind of worshipped him as a god. Now, if you think about it, Egypt, that's Hamites, that's Africans. Why the hell is Africans have a land named Alexandria? That's not a Hamitic word. That's not, it has no ties to a Hamitic, origin. Again, that's how the brother said. Alexander the Greek kind of established his name there, and they made a whole city called Alexandria West, which actually went down to be one of the greatest historical cities throughout history. And even our people play a big part in that, Alexandria, Septuagint, and, 70 Jews, and, things of that nature. It was a real scholarly, you got the Library of Alexandria. It was a real big historical, scholarly, area. And as we all know, the Jews always fled into Egypt. So our people had a lot to do with that, area. But that's all I wanted to say. You got it.
Khan. And that's right. That's right. I mean, you had documents be written over there, right? Different, a lot, like I said, the Library of Alexandria, because you had these Hamites. As soon as Esau stepped into power, they worshipped them as a god. I'm led to believe that's when they established the city around that time. It was when he came into Egypt, because they hated the Persians so much, right? But reading on, they had menaced Greek freedom and culture since the days of Darius and Xerxes over a century and a half before, right? Alexander had arrived at the head of what he considered a pan-Hellenistic crusade to punish the Persians for the harm they have done to Greece in the invasions of 490 and 480, right? Asia was to be won rightfully by the spear, and the issue would never be fully decided to Alexander triumph completely over the Persian foe. So let me actually continue to read on, because he took down Asia and the Levant and Egypt, and he was pushing eastward. He was pushing eastward, right? Let me actually jump down a little bit. So debating Darius, all right? So let's getting into the battle a little bit more, all right? And it says that Darius say such things, Arian contains not a hint of the history, and it may be that Curtius merely repeats Macedonian propaganda intended to legitimize Alexander's rule over the conquered Persians by giving him what amounts to the approval of his erstwhile enemy, right? Whatever the case, the story is evidence of the considerable efforts to which Alexander went to make himself palatable to the Persian nobility, through which he would have to rule one day, right? His protection of the royal women since Isis was a piece of Alexander's plan to retain the Persian monarchy and through a reign as a king of kings himself. That's evil, right? So after that battle, he's trying to establish himself as a king of kings. But it's going to go over, it's going to kind of get into how actually before this battle even happened, Darius tried to bribe Alexander. He tried to give him some money. He tried to give him some money under the table so he don't publicly embarrass him, right? It says Darius tried not for the first time to buy off Alexander. So he kept trying to buy this man off. But that's how you know Esau is a man of the sword. Why? Because even though Esau loves gold, gold is his god. When it comes to that sword and bloodshed, you can't even buy him off. He wants to kill you, right? Because it says not for the first time to buy off Alexander, he offered him all the lands west of the Euphrates. He said, you know what? You don't even have to keep conquering. I'm going to give you all the lands west of the Euphrates, Ecbatana, Media, right? All of these lands. His daughter in marriage. Hey, you can have my daughter. His small son, Achis, as a hostage. He even offered up his damn son as a hostage, man. And 30,000 talents as ransom for the rest of his family. Alexander laid out these proposals to his senior officers, right? Parmenio offered the opinion that Alexander might as well ransom the women because it was troublesome to carry them around the army. He also continued by pointing out to Alexander that no one had ever been master of territories from the Danube to the Euphrates, as Alexander was now. Darius was offering to recognize these conquests without a battle. He wanted to do these things without a battle. He didn't want to fight him. He was tired of fighting, right? So Alexander generals was like, well, why don't you accept the offer? If I was Alexander, I will accept this offer, right? His general said, but Alexander said, I would too. Where I Parmenio, replied Alexander. But he told the Persian envoys that Asia could not have two monarchs, and that if Darius wished to remain king, then let them fight. He said, guess what? I know I want those offers. I want those things that he offered me, but there can't be two kings. I got to rule. I got to be in charge. That's the pride of the so-called white man. He said, I don't want to be a joint empire like the Achaemenid Empire. I want to rule as sole king. So he said, to hell with all these gifts. To hell with, getting all these lands. I want to do it by blood. And that's how you know Esau got the sword as the blessing, man. Oh, you got it.
According to the law, if don't you got to make peace upon a land before you go against it? In Deuteronomy the 20th chapter.
Yup.
So
let's pull it. What? I said you might as well pull that because Esau, he don't care, man. Esau don't give a damn.
Let me go to
Deuteronomy 20. Man.
All right, it's Deuteronomy chapter 20. All right, let me see what it said.
Verse 11, I believe.
Verse 10. It's the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 20 and verse number 10. It says, when thou comest nigh unto a city to fight against it. You can hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, Con. Deuteronomy 20 and 10. When thou comest nigh to a city to fight against it, then proclaim peace unto it. And it shall be, if it make thee answer of peace and open unto thee, then it shall be that all the people that is found therein shall be tributaries unto thee, and they shall serve thee. That's what that's what he said. You can have all this money, have my what do you say? Have my daughter. What type of man offer up his son?
And his son.
Son and half the kingdom. That's a good deal.
That's a great deal.
That's what you give me 30,000 shekels of what did it say, gold or talents or something like that.
Yeah.
You could have like that and just minded your business. You just look, you already did something that no Grecian has ever done. You conquered all this land. He could have just rested right there. Been content. That the Lord said, in all things be content. I'm saying in Proverbs 38, don't give me too much nor too little, paraphrase. He just didn't fall. And again, that's all we say. The Most High wasn't dealing with Alexander on the right-hand side. He was dealing with him on the left-hand side. Just because the Lord brought forth chariots and helped them overtake Tyre and he showed his wonders does not mean Alexander was a righteous, God-fearing man. Like the brother brought up, they exalted him as a god in Egypt. That's off. That's completely off. He got into Egypt. They bowed down to him, called him Pharaoh. And I believe when you go into it, his mother, after Philip, his father died, his mother kind of told him, this secret. She was like, hey, I'm going to tell you the secret. Can't tell no one, but, I've been keeping this from you since you was a youth. I believe she said, you're really the son of Zeus. Aren't you the son of Zeus? You a demigod. So he always looked at himself as some form of demigod upon the earth. Just a whole bunch of pride. So you know what that type of prideful Edomite demonic spirit he wasn't going to yield. Because even his mother told him that he was the son of Zeus. How did he become the son of Zeus? Did she lay down with Zeus?
Damn.
But yeah, that's another account. I ain't really put that out, but they got sources saying that though. But you got it. I just want to bring that quick point out.
Yeah, that's bad. That's the pride that he had, man. Like the brother brought out the law. The man said there can't be two kings. He said, then let them fight. Right? It's crazy. that's crazy. But we're gonna continue to read on. Right. And this wasn't the first time that he kept trying to bribe the so-called white man. Esau loves money, but Esau, there's one thing he loves more than money, and that's the sword, and that's blood.
Yeah.
Esau don't like mercy. He likes to kill and be deceptive about it. But it says, thus the die was cast, and all would depend on the battle to be fought in the coming days. At the time, Alexander had a force of about 47,000 men. He rode out in the morning of September 30th to reconnoiter the Persian army. He was taken back by what he saw. It was far larger than he anticipated. Yeah, because the Persian armies, they had assumed all the other nations, and then they will pay their I think they will call it not I believe what mercenaries, and they will pay those men just to stand on the front line and die, just because they had bodies. So they had a lot of bodies, but their army wasn't too strong, just because they had a lot of numbers. And it says, and stronger too, especially cavalry. There were large numbers of armored horsemen with Partha, Bactria, and Scythia. What should he do? Some offers suggested immediate attack, but the cooler head of Parmenio prevailed. He suggested a reconnaissance of the terrain to look for impediments, and Alexander accepted the counsel and conducted himself with cavalry. So Alexander took counsel, sidebar. You know, if you're a king, you know, you take counsel, right? But later on, it says Parmenio went to Alexander's tent and suggested a night attack against a greatly superior enemy. The Persians would not be expecting it, and the confusion would aid the Macedonians. Alexander answered, I would not demean myself by stealing victory like a thief. Alexander must defeat his enemies openly and honestly. Alexander had further reason to reject Parmenio's advice. Night fighting was extremely risky, and even if successful, might give Darius the excuse that he was not defeated fairly in the open. While if the Macedonians lost, they would be surrounded by enemies deep in the heart of a hostile land. So he thought this through before he was like, you know what? I'm not going to fight them at night. I'm going to fight them openly. One, so people don't say that, no, one, because I fought them at night. Two, because if we lose, we're going to be surrounded in hostile land at night where we can't see. So Alexander was a war general, man. You know, and that's why they hold this Edomite up, because of his thinking skills through the spirit. But this is kind of going into the battle of Arbela, or the battle of Gaugamela, you know, and kind of going into how he fought in the strategies that was used, you know, against the Persian army. So let me get this next article real quick. Let me jump into this article real quick. Right. So after this battle, what happened? Kind of jump down. Jump down real quick. Went into the battle of Tyre. Khan.
That's crazy. Kind of touched on the two chief battle we just went over too. Susis and Tyre.
Yeah, Khan. You know, this kind of get into the earlier history we already kind of touched on. But when it says Alexander becomes king of Persia, now let me see this. All right, after conquering Egypt, Alexander faced Darius and his massive troops at Gaugamela in October 331 BC. Following fierce fighting and heavy losses on both sides, Darius fled and was assassinated by his own troops. Damn. It said Alexander was sad when he found Darius's body, and he gave him a royal burial. Finally, rid of Darius, Alexander proclaimed himself king of Persia, but another Persian leader, Bessus, also thought to be Darius's murderer, had also proclaimed the Persian throne. Alexander could have let him stand. So Alexander, you know, this he had a nobody try to, you know, claim the throne, and Alexander wasn't having it, right? After relentless pursuit by Alexander, Bessus' troops handed Bessus over to Ptolemy, Alexander's good friend, and he was mutilated, and executed. With Bessus out the way, Alexander had full control of Persia. So after the battle of Arbela, after the battle of Gaugamela, Alexander the freak, you know, he became the king of Persia. He became the king of Persia. Right? So we're going to give the comment board a pop quiz. Right? Who was the king that Alexander took down in the battle of Gaugamela to claim the Persian throne? What was his name? Right? Just to see, you know, we kind of been doing a, yeah, we're going to kind of give a little quiz through the spirit. Rapid fire. What's the king's name? He took him down. Don't be Googling this. Don't be cheating either. Right? What was the king's name that Alexander took down of the Persian army?
I believe they got a quote that say Alexander kind of wept after he took down Gaugamela too, because it wasn't no more there wasn't no more land to take over, paraphrasing or something like that.
Yeah, kind of started crying.
Yeah.
Wasn't no more men and pop, women to take and average.
Yeah, that's demonic. Them start shedding tears because you can't kill no more, take no more land. So
Right.
Alexander the Great really like the epitome of like, he really like what it shows what it means to be an Edomite.
Mm-hmm.
He's got that demonic spirit.
I don't see no comments, man.
Yeah,
Right?
check. Try.
Yeah, what's going on? We got 31 people watching. Hey, who was the king that Alexander took down in a battle of Gaugamela to reclaim the Persian throne? What was his name? We went over. What was this man's name? See if the comment board is diligent.
Put a timer on it. Shot clock.
Yeah, damn, 20 seconds. Yeah, 20 seconds. See that? 10 seconds. What's going on? Rapid fire. What was this man's name? Well, no, Larry Ross. It wasn't Xerxes. It wasn't Xerxes. All right, let's scroll up. All right. Darius's body. Darius the third. It was King Darius the third. Ancient knew, why don't we? Yes, it was Darius. Right? You see, we gotta be locked in. We gotta be locked into this history, man. Got to understand what's going on because it's gonna help. I mean, it's gonna help. We're gonna go into some history dealing with our people during this time, but we have to understand how even Alexander even got into this rule and how our people was even subject. We know about Antiochus the fourth, but we don't know nothing before that. How did he even come into power? Which dynasty? Which family did he come from? Was he when he came from the Ptolemaic dynasty? Like, what was going on? Right, but it was Darius the third. Right. Hey, Alexander, when you go into it, he even took down India, man. He went all the way as far as India. He marched on Punjab in 327 BC. Some tribes surrendered peacefully, others did not in 326. Alexander met Porus of Parava at the Hydaspes River. Porus's army was less experienced than Alexander's, but they had a secret weapon, elephants, because them Hamites, not the Hamites, the Elamites, they worship elephants and cows. They be having the elephants with the little thing with them little gold beads on his nostrils.
Yeah.
Yeah, they be doing all of this. They be doing a worm. Doing a worm with Shiva. That's what them Elamites do. So they had that so-called secret weapon. But even so, after a fierce battle in a raging thunderstorm, Porus was defeated. Right. One event took place at Hydaspes, which devastated Alexander. The death of his beloved horse. Bucephalus, it's unclear if he died from battle wounds of old age, but Alexander named the city of Bucephalus after him, right? Because Esau loved animals, right? Alexander wanted to press on and attempt to conquer all of India, but his war-weary soldiers refused. And his office, this man Alexander didn't want to stop. He wanted to conquer all. Now India is big. It's not a small map. His soldiers was tired. They said, "Hold on, Alexander, you doing too much. Come on, Alexander, you doing, bro? We just took down India. You want to go over the whole country?" And his officers convinced him to return to Persia. So Alexander led his troops down the Indus River and was severely wounded during the battle of the Mali. Then after recovering, he divided his troops, sending half of them back to Persia and half to Cappadocia, a desolate area west of the Indus River. So this is his taking down or his coming into power after taking down the Persians and proclaiming himself king. He took down India. He had a mass wedding where he intermarried with the other nations, their women, which was just off. He had a mass wedding, which is everybody was just laying down. Yeah, everybody. Yeah, it's just a free. Hey, it tells you that his army resented that attempt to change their culture and many mutinied. Right, but after Alexander took a firm stand and replaced Macedonian officers and troops of Persia, his army backed down. His own army backed down because they were tired of just laying just carnally with other. That's how bad that was. Esau, but just going into
So I had a quick reset when you was done.
Khan, you can pull it real quick because I'm gonna go into how he died and we're gonna see what's going on.
Okay, Khan. Just Khan. It's the book of Daniel, chapter 8, and verse number 3. All right, Daniel chapter 8 and verse number 3. And again, with a man like Alexander the Great, with all the works that he's done, best believe the Most High, he prophesied him, long before he was on the scene. So this is the book of Daniel, chapter 8 and verse number 3. Then I lifted up mine eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram which had two horns. This ram with two horns represents the Medo-Persian Empire, right? The two horns representing the Medes and the Persians. Two strengths. It says, and the two horns were high, but one was higher than the other, right? Because the Persian was more exalted than the Medes, and they end up taking over the Medes. And the higher came up last. And I saw a ram, right? And I saw a ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no beast might stand before, neither was there any that can deliver out of his hand, but did according to his will, and he became great, right? Because the Persian Empire became a great nation. It says, and as I was considering, behold, the he-goat came from the west. Now it said the he-goat, it came from the west. Who's this he-goat? This he-goat is the Achaemenid, not the Achaemenid, but the Macedonian or the Greek Empire. So this he-goat came from the west because the Greeks and their city-states before it was all the way west of the Persian so-called empire. So you had the he-goat that came from the west on the face of the whole earth and touched not the ground, meaning that he moved extremely fast and swiftly. He moved so fast and he didn't touch the ground. And Alexander, he conquered the whole known world in under 10 years. All right, that's something that has never been done. And he started at 20 years old, We didn't know him. It says, and the he-goat had a notable horn between his eyes. That notable horn that was set up amongst the Greeks was Alexander the Great. He was that notable one, that king, the one that kind of kicked everything off. We didn't know, and it says, and he became the ram. And he came to the ram that had two horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him in fury in his power. And that's exactly what Alexander did, man. Ran in fury to that empire, the Persians. All hell broke loose, and overtook it. Killed Darius. Well, on his way to seek to kill Darius, took over that whole empire, went from Tyre to Issus, Gaugamela, like the brother said, even India. All he was doing was conquering that whole area swiftly. Verse 7, it says, and I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him. And he smote the ram and brake his two horns, and there was no power in the ram to stand before him, but cast them down to the ground and stamped upon him, and there was none that can deliver the ram out of his hand. Therefore the he-goat waxed very great, and he was strong, right? It says the great horn was broken, for it came up four notable ones toward the four winds of heaven. And we're gonna get into that too, Lord willing, with the horn broken, meaning Alexander gave up the ghost. But after he gave up the ghost, it said four notable. Let me read that again. It says, right, toward the four notable winds of heaven. So you have four notable ones that kind of rose up after Alexander the Great, that the brother gonna kind of touch on through the spirit. You got it.
Let me get precept. Yeah, I mean, and this is all found in the Holy Bible. Oh, this is not true. This is not it's not biblical. You can't find history in the Bible. It's just full of white Jesus and Christianity. Wow, let's read about the Battle of Arbela and the Battle of Issus in the Bible. First Maccabees 1:1. And it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, an Edomite, who came out of the land of Shittim, right, had smitten Darius, the king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in instead the first over Greece. So there's your answer. Darius, right? King of Persian, the Medes, Darius the third, right? This is in the Bible. The Battle of Arbela is found in the Bible. It's telling you the history. And after many wars and won many strongholds, right? The Battle of Issus, the Battle of Arbela, he took down India and slew the kings of the earth, right? He took down Egypt, they worship him as a god. He took down the battle of Tyre, he built the land bridge, right? And went through to the ends of the earth and took spoils of many nations, in so much that the earth was quiet before him. Whereupon he was exalted and his heart was lifted up, right? Because he wanted to keep killing. Like the brother Makwa said earlier, when he took down them Indians, and, you know, his soldiers was tired. They said, "Come on, man, can we go back to the crib? It's too much. We doing too much." Right? His heart was lifted up. He was crying, man, because he wanted more bodies to kill. He wanted more bodies to be shed abroad. And when we're going to keep going into it, he actually set his face towards the Arabian desert. He wanted to take down Ishmael too, but the Lord killed him before that could happen. Right? And it says, and he gathered a mighty strong host and ruled over countries and nations and kings who became tributaries unto him. Right? They started paying him taxes. And after these things, he fell sick and perceived that he should die. Right? He perceived that he should die. Let's go into that real quick. Right? It says, by 323 BC, Alexander was head of an enormous empire and had recovered from devastating loss of his friend Hephaestion, who was also reputed to be one of Alexander's lovers, man, male lovers, homosexual male lovers. So this man, Alexander, was popping his generals, right? Probably had AIDS, syphilis, chlamydia, whatever disease he had. He was probably just doing his thing with his generals and his lovers, man. Thanks to his insatiable urge for world supremacy, he started his plans to conquer Arabia. See that? He wanted to conquer Arabia. He wanted more blood. He was only 32 years old. But the Lord said, no, you're doing too much, and took him out the earth. But he never lived to see it happen. Some historians say Alexander died of malaria or other natural causes. Others believe he was poisoned. Either way, he never named a successor. We're led to believe he died of some damn disease from dealing with other men. That's what we're led to believe. We're led to believe that he died of some type of hepatitis or, you know, some type of gonorrhea or something, right? It wasn't malaria. He didn't die from mosquitoes. He didn't die from mosquitoes. I'm not believing that, Esau. There was no natural causes.
All right.
He wasn't poisoned either. He died from dealing with another man, right? Either way, he never named a successor, right? And it was said to believe that Alexander the Great, his son was about 1 year old at the time. So his son couldn't be passed the crown, so it was given to a regent king who we're going to go into it, named Antigonus, right? His death and the bloody infighting for control that happened afterwards unraveled the empires he fought so hard to create. And we're going to go into that, the Diadochi, right? The Diadochi, right? Did you have an article on that, King, or I can pull up one?
I don't have one on there.
Right? We're going to go into the Diadochi, the men that fought for control that happened afterwards.
Get a second to last one. Right, and as we read in Daniel, the 7th chapter, or the 8th chapter, really, you seen how it said after the horn was broken, that horn being Alexander the Great, meaning after he gave up the ghost, he was broken down. 4 notable winds came up. All right, now that 4 notable winds will be Ptolemy, right, Cassander, Lysimachus, and Seleucid, his 4 generals. And this was their inheritance, quote unquote. Now you really have more than 4, but through the, you know, a lot of battles that they had, you know, amongst each other, 4 of them stood. Now you see in the bottom left hand corner the so-called map key. All right, you have Cassandry, Lysimachus, Ptolemy, Seleucid, Carthago, Res Publica, Romania, all right, and Colonial Gracies. Right, I'm saying
the Greeks that didn't, they were neutral.
So this is the kind of the allotted, you know, inheritance for quote unquote. that he gave to his man. So we can go to the article and read about it real quick. And then I'm gonna go back to the picture. So it says the Diadochi, right? The Diadochi meaning successors, right? Because they succeeded from Alexander the Great. It says were rival general families and friends of Alexander the Great who fought for control over the empire after his death. And Alexander, this is why the Most High, see, we read Daniel, the second chapter. If you go to Daniel 2 real quick, the Most High made them, the Greeks extremely divided according to the prophecies. Let's go to Daniel 2. Let's go to Daniel chapter 2 and verse number, where I want to start at. I'm going to start at verse 30. No, I'm going to jump down. Salakia. I'm going to start at verse number 38. Daniel chapter 2 and verse 38. It says, right, and wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of heaven hath he given into thine hand, and hath made thee ruler over them all. Thou art this gold. Right, so you have Daniel breaking down to Nebuchadnezzar the image of gold that Nebuchadnezzar dreamed that these men had to break down. Right, and brothers done put it up in the past, plenty of times. Nevertheless, verse 39, it says, after these shall arise another kingdom. And that gold was the Babylonians. Right, after these shall arise another kingdom, inferior to thee, and another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth. And the fourth kingdom shall be as iron. All right, this kingdom right here as iron are the Greeks. Now we read about the structure of the image. All right, it was real divided. It was a body of a whole image. And the farther down you go to the specific body parts and the metals, it represented one, the division of the kingdoms, and two, the metals being stronger represented the strength of the kingdom as well. So the Greeks being that iron, iron is not a weak metal like how gold is or brass is or silver. So they were strong, yet they were divided. They were split. That's why when Alexander the Great died, his kingdom was split into four generals, four rulers, to divide and to rule the rest of the so-called empire. And through that split and through that division, you had many wars because men, through their lust of rulership, wanted to have a whole kingdom to themselves. And that's how the Greek city-states were as well. The Greek city-states, there wasn't no specific ruler. That's like how Babylon is today. In America, you get, your own governor, each state. Each state got different laws. You got to know, how laws work out depending on which state you go to. That's the same spirit of the Greeks. And that shows that division that was already prophesied during the time of Daniel that the Greeks will have. Which is why there was so many conflicts and wars and battles between the Diadochi. So we could go back to the article and finish that out. Right, it says the wars of the Diadochi marked the beginning of the Hellenistic period from the Mediterranean Sea to the Indus River Valley. The most notable Diadochi include Ptolemy, Antagonist, Cassander, and Seleucus, right? And Lysimachus as well. It's really Lysimachus over Antagonist, but
Yeah, they got
it
this
says
stuff.
yeah, kind of yeah. I believe Antagonist end up getting overthrown.
By solutions.
Yeah, and Lysimachus kind of got in there, so I don't know why they said that, but nevertheless, it says at the last, remaining at the end of the wars of successors ruling Egypt, Asia Minor, Macedon, and Persia. All right, it says respectively, all foregoing dynasties lasting several centuries. That's why you get, each dynasty, Seleucid dynasty, right? The Ptolemaic dynasty, Castor dynasty, and Lycomedes dynasty. But the main two that kind of prevailed was the Ptolemaic dynasty and the Seleucid dynasty. in the so-called New Testament and First Maccabees, those are the two dynasties that you read about that we were in captivity under. And I want to get this quick precept. Even when we read the book of Sirach, that book was actually orchestrated when we was in captivity under the Ptolemaic dynasty. I want to get that in the prologue of Sirach. Not only that, but that's where you get, I believe, the Greek Septuagint from. All right, the Greek Septuagint came about when we was in the Grecian captivity under the Ptolemaic dynasty, if I'm not mistaken. You go towards the end. All right, you should see where it says Astages. Right, yeah, see that? Now, I'm going to start at the period before. It says, for in the 8th and 13th century, coming into Egypt, right? Because we know the Greeks overtook Egypt and set Alexander up as their god and pharaoh, right? It says, when Astages was king. Now, when we look up who Astages is, I believe that's the son of Ptolemy Philadelphus. Now, Ptolemy Philadelphus, he's the one that orchestrated the Greek Septuagint. Now, for those that don't know what the Greek Septuagint is, it was a writing that our ancestors, right, 70 Jews kind of orchestrated of the so-called Old Testament. They wrote it out in Greek. Or you had 70 translators. They went to the Library of Alexandria. They broke down, the translation, and they put it out in the Greek. His son, which is Astages, was king during the time that Joshua and Joshua and Sirach kind of wrote this book. Salakia. And that's some good history touching on this time, because that lets you know when, the Apocrypha, namely the book of Sirach, was written. A lot of people don't know when Sirach was written, but it was scribed out around the time when we was at captivity under the Greeks. But that was a quick point I wanted to touch on. We can go back to the article. So our people played a lot of history, in time throughout the Grecian Empire. And that's before touching on the Hasmonean dynasty too. That brother's gonna, touch on next week, Lord willing. It says in ancient Greek, Diadochi is now. We're going to touch on all that, but nevertheless, those are the main generals that were prophesied in the book of Daniel, the 8th chapter, to reign after Alexander the Great against Seleucus, Lycomedes, Cassander, and Ptolemy. Ptolemy and Seleucus being the two main dynasties that actually succeeded after the death of Alexander, and through that it caused many wars and internal conflicts and all hell breaking loose, which starts, the rebellion of our ancestors. Even touching on Daniel the 11th chapter, going into the 6 Syrian wars as well with those two empires and dynasties. But you got it.
Con, let me get a precept real quick.
I believe that was it.
Con, what First Maccabees? What if First Maccabees chapter 1 again? Because it's going to touch into the Diadochi as well. We start at verse number 7. First Maccabees 1:7. So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died, right? 323 BC. And all his servants bear rule at everyone in his place. Then after his death, they all put on crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied on the earth. So when these generals and when Esau came into power, evils were multiplied on the earth. Pedophilia, bestiality, the whole 9 yards came into play. But the point I wanted was they all put crowns upon themselves. So after their sons, remember, like I said, it was Cassander, Lysimachus, Ptolemy, and then it was Cassander, Lysimachus, Ptolemy, right?
That's Seleucus.
And Seleucus. Oh no, it was Antigonus first. I'm sorry, Antigonus, and then Seleucus took him down. Right, and then Seleucus took him down. Let me see if I got the map on that. Right, that was Alexander's empire. Right, that was Alexander's empire from all the way from Macedonia, all the way touching India. They didn't want to. He wanted to go further into India. He said, "Look, no, you're doing too much." Right, but let's see if we can get this map. All right, here we go. So this is what it looked like. This is the the four original generals, right? Antigonus, Cassander, Lysimachus, right? And then Ptolemy, right? You kind of see that he got this portion right here, Antiochia, battle of Ipsus, battle of Carpedium, right? He kind of, this is Rome, right? The Roman Republic. But Seleucus started coming from Asia and started taking down this man Antigonus's empire. And then you had it look like this, where Antigonus or Seleucus, he has these areas, right? And he kind of split it with Lysimachus a little bit, right? So those are the four generals, the four original generals, right? That was fighting over and bearing, that was putting crowns upon themselves, right? Let me go to Daniel chapter 11, verse 5. All right, go to Daniel chapter 11, verse 5. I'm sorry, verse 4. And it says, and when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken and shall be divided toward the four winds of heaven, which we just went into, and not to his posterity. What does it mean, your posterity? Your posterity is your child, your seed. Because when you go into it, Alexander the Great, he actually had a 1-year-old son, but he's 1 year old. He can't rule a kingdom. And Antigonus wants to be a regent king. Let's get that definition of a regent king. A regent king is a king that's set up until the king that's supposed to be the king that's actually in place is of age, right? He's the monarch is a minor. In a monarchy, a regent is a person appointed to govern a state for the time being, because the actual monarch is a minor, absent or incapacitated or unable to discharge their powers and duties, or the throne is vacant and a new monarch has not been yet determined. So Alexander the son, he was 1 year old at the time. So Antigonus thought to be a regent king, right? Until he was of age, but he really didn't want that. He really just wanted to rule the whole empire, and that's why that happened, right? That's why it says, and not to his posterity, because it went to his generals. The kingdom went to his generals, not to his son, like it was supposed to. And it says, nor according to his dominion which he ruled, for his kingdom shall be plucked up even for others beside those, right? Everybody was grabbing at this man's kingdom. Verse 5, and the king of the south shall be strong, and one of his princes, and he shall be above him, and he had dominion, his dominion shall be a great dominion. It's talking about Ptolemy. He was the king of the south because Ptolemy had the south, he had Egypt, right? And he was battling the Levant. This is Levant. He was battling that with the Seleucids. Antiochus the fourth comes out of the Seleucid Empire. He comes out of the Seleucid dynasty. Antiochus the first, Antiochus the second, Antiochus the third the Great with the Battle of Rapha, one of the greatest battles of Syrian wars. And then he had Antiochus the fourth come out of that. Let me actually get this real quick. Let me see if I had another article going on to Diadochi. Let me get this real quick. Antiochus the fourth. Screen kind of moving slow. Let me see. This is what I want. Actually, I'm gonna touch on it. Yeah, I'm gonna touch on this first. Right, king of Egypt. So Ptolemy the first Soter. Right, he's the first king over Egypt. After naming himself king, Ptolemy's first concern was the continuing war with Antigonus, which was now focused on the island of Rhodes. In 304, Ptolemy aided the inhabitants of Rhodes against Antigonus and was accorded the divine title Soter, or Savior, which was commonly called from that time. The dissolution of Alexander's empire was brought to a close with the battle near Ipsus in Asia Minor 301. During the battle, Antigonus was defeated by the other kings. This led to the attempt by the remaining successors of Alexander to define their kingdoms. For this reason, a dispute arose between Ptolemy and Seleucus. This is the kickoff or the jump off to what would be the 6 Syrian wars of Babylon over Syria, particularly the southern Syrian ports, which served as a terminal points for the caravan routes. This quarrel, however, was temporarily settled peacefully through compromise. In addition to solo Syria, Palestine, Ptolemy apparently also occupied Pamphylia, Lycia, and part of Scythia in southern Asia Minor. Right. So when you go into it, this is kind of the initial battle between Antigonus and Ptolemy, and then the jump off to the 6 Syrian wars, which we'll get into a little bit, not too much, but that's what Daniel the 11th chapter is touching on, is the 6 Syrian wars. Now let me get into this, man. Did you have anything on that, King, before I get into Antiochus? Khan. So let me go to First Maccabees chapter 1 and verse number 10. And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes. So this man Antiochus, Epiphanes, was the fourth king of the Seleucid that came out of the Seleucid dynasty. He was the fourth king that came out of the Seleucid dynasty, right? A son of Antiochus the king, who had been a hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks, right? So he wasn't he didn't come from a seed line. He was actually a hostage at Rome, and he convinced the Roman government, right, to allow him to rule, so he can kind of help bring them in through the spirit. So he wasn't the son of Antiochus III, right? He was actually a hostage that came into power with seducing and flattery words, right? Verse 11. In those days went out there out of Israel wicked men and persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us, for since we departed from them we had much sorrow. So this is the beginning of Antiochus IV, which was one of the most wicked kings to ever rule, right? The most wicked kings to, I mean, you have a lot of heathen kings that was horrible, right? You had Nebuchadnezzar, right? You had Sargon II, Sennacherib, right? You had a lot of heathen kings that was evil. Herod's, but Antiochus Epiphanes, he was one of the most evil kings. Nero.
So I believe his name means Epiphanes. I believe it means God is manifest.
Yup. Very prideful too.
Yeah.
His mother, when you go into it, this man's mother had to convince him to lay down with a woman to have a child to keep his kingdom going. He didn't even want to deal with any women. He just wanted to deal with men. And just call himself a divine God. His mother had to force him to have a son. This man was back.
Yeah, that's wicked.
Yeah, that's wicked. This man was backwards. This man's mother was trying to she was begging him to lay down with a woman. She said, baby, please lay down with a woman. He said, no.
That's madness.
That's madness. But we're going to keep touching on it. It said many names come to mind when someone mentions the great villains of the Bible. Some are foreign powers like the Pharaoh of the Exodus or King Nebuchadnezzar, and some are even native Israelites, such as King Saul and King Ahab. The great villains in the era of the New Testament and early church often took form of great prosecutors, right? Including King Herod, the great and Roman emperors Nero, Claudius, right, during that time when James' head was chopped off, and Domitian. These names have gone on to become historically infamous, with many immortalized on stage and screen. There is, however, one name that has escaped the attention of biblical pop culture, even though his actions arguably and worse than many of his villainous peers. Antiochus the fourth Epiphanes. Yeah, this man was evil, man. He wanted a one world order and tried to and persecuted the damn Jews, man. Our people. Let's see what he was doing. Right? Let's see some of the things that this man was doing through the spirit. So let's go back to First Maccabees, chapter 1.
And I got a quick point too.
Carl, you got it.
I was gonna say too, like you said, he was just he had the oppression demon. He just wanted to oppress. Because when we was under the Ptolemaic, kind of rule, the brother you showed the picture earlier, at first, before Seleucia came, the Ptolemy dynasty, they kind of rule over that Levant and Israel area. But the minute Seleucia wanted to come down, he took that over, and all of a sudden, all hell breaking loose. And, they defiling the temple. They popping women in the altar. You got pork sacrifice, all hell breaking loose. But during the time of Ptolemy, it wasn't really, too much going on. We still able to keep the laws, keep the feast days, etc. But that shows that evil, demonic spirit that Esau always got to have. He just got to come in and just mess everything up. Just got to come in and just be a demon, Out of all people to be a demon, so he wanted to go to the Jews, have all hell break loose. But I just wanted to make that quick point.
Yeah. And then you had wicked Israelites. Yeah, coons. That's one thing in the world I can't stand is a coon, because you're not allowed to hate them. They're your own people. You're not allowed to hate them. But my dislike is right at the border. My dislike for coons is right before that hatred point. Right before. You got to love them, but it's right before, because they're worse than Esau. At least Esau know he your enemy. Those are your own people. And they coon so hard to the point where they will forsake the law. And we didn't even get into Jason, Menelaus. Jason was killing his own people, man. They purposely overthrown what you got going on just to let the heathen in. Damn, coons. All coons got to die.
You had Simon the Benjamite. He wanted to overthrow Onias, so he went and told Heliodorus that it was sums of money stacked up in the temple. Come raid it.
Infinite.
That's all. That's your own people, brother.
And making the Benjamite.
Yeah.
You can just say Simon. You gotta say Simon the Benjamite.
Hey,
that's awesome.
You got to be specific.
Wow. Damn, man. Yeah. So our men, coons. I was going to say that in verse 11. In those days, went there out of Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, "Let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow." Yeah, well, since we stopped following Esau, we were very sad, and we want to continue doing their ways, because the Lord doesn't make us happy. So this device pleased them well. Then certain of the people were so forward herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen. The king, Antiochus, said, "You know what? Yeah, you can do what we do. You can do what we do. You can uncircumcise your sons. You can forsake your laws of your God. You can join yourselves to us." And they were sold to do mischief. They were sold to do mischief. Let me jump down. Let's jump down. Let's jump down to verse 49. This whole thing is good. I'll jump down to verse 43. I'll start verse 41. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people, that same spirit in America, and everyone shall leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. Yea, also many of the Israelites consented to his religion and sacrificed to idols and profaned the Sabbath. So you have those coons that we talked about earlier depart from their culture. For the king has sent many letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, that they shall follow the strange laws of the land, and forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple, and that they shall profane the Sabbaths and festival days. So they say your new moons, your Pentecost, your Passovers, profane those days. No more Sabbath days, no more offerings for your sins, nothing. You got to serve me. That's what he was saying. And pollute the sanctuary and holy people, set up altars and groves and chapels of idols, and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts. This is off. And that they shall also leave their children uncircumcised, and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation, to the end they might forget the law and change all the ordinances. And the reason why we got to go into 1st and 2nd Maccabees in the Greek history, because it's going to set the precedent for the New Testament. It's going to set the precedent for what Paul was talking about. Neither Jew nor Greek in the Roman Empire, because these are the things that was happening. You had Jews forgetting the law in their ordinances. So they didn't know who they were by the time after Yahushua died. Right? But that's the story for another day. Verse 50. And whosoever would not do according to the commandment of the king, he should also die. Let's jump down. Verse 60. At which time, according to the commandment, they put to death certain women that had caused their children to be circumcised. So Eve was getting put to death for keeping the law. And they hanged the infants about their necks and rifled their houses and slew them that had circumcised them. Howbeit, many in Israel were fully resolved and confirmed in themselves not to eat any unclean thing. Wherefore they chose rather to die that they might not be defiled with meats, and that they might not profane the holy covenant. So they died, and there was very great wrath upon Israel. So you had these things happening under Antiochus the Fourth. Let me get another precept real quick. These things was happening under Antiochus the Fourth, right? Evil and madness, but it gets worse than that. Let's get into some more. Right, 2 Maccabees 6 and 10. I'll start at verse 8. Right now, that was what Antiochus the Fourth. This is now what Ptolemy. So this was happening. So Israel was caught between two straits. It's either you're going to have to bow down to Antiochus of the Seleucid dynasty, or you're going to have to bow down to Ptolemy. And both of them, you were getting put to death. Right, verse 8. Moreover, there went out a decree to the neighbor cities of the heathen by the suggestion of Ptolemy. Now, this is the king that ruled Egypt, against the Jews, that they should observe the same fashions and be partakers of their sacrifices. And whoso would not conform themselves to the manner of the Gentiles should be put to death, that a man might see the present misery. We just read that Antiochus wanted the same thing. So it's either you get down, let me get the map again. Either you're going to get down with Ptolemy, or you're going to get down with Antiochus. There's no in between. And Israel was caught right here, in between two. Either you're going to get down with this Edomite, or you're going to get down with this Edomite. And if you don't, you get put to death if you're over here. And if you don't, you get put to death over here. We had no choice but to fight.
So right? And that's how you know that the Most High, that's how you know that's all spiritual, because out of all places, out of all this big landmass, it had to have happened in Israel. Right? They got this whole area, all Arabia, got Asian, and this could happen with any kingdom. This could happen with the Seleucids and Lysimachus. This could happen with Lysimachus and Cassander. But it had to been, Ptolemy and Seleucid, and the conflict was literally in the heart of Israel, like literally right there. Yep. That's how you know it's the Most High, because we was going off, and the Most High came, and really it's all of the Lord sent Antiochus. Like the brother said, we was going off. The Most High said, all right, okay, I got something for y'all. Sent Antiochus, and the rest is history.
See that? Right in between. One of the most wicked kings, along with Ptolemy as well. Ptolemy was wicked, very wicked for doing that. But let's go back to that. Right? So by the suggestion of Ptolemy against the Jews, that there should observe the same fashions, be partaker of their sacrifices, and whoso would not conform themselves to the manner of the Gentiles should be put to death, then might a man have seen the present misery. For there are two women brought who had circumcised their children, who when they had openly led around about the city, the babes hanging at their breasts, they cast them down headlong from the wall. Then we just read that was what Antiochus was doing. So like you said, we couldn't catch a break. They literally wrapped the infants around our women's neck, and then they cast the women off a wall, and they died to their death for keeping the Sabbath day. This is going to happen all over again too, right? Esau got that same spirit, right? But we're kind of giving you a synopsis on how evil these people were to us, and who were ruling during this time. So when we read the Bible, when we read the New Testament, when we read about the Greeks and the Maccabees, we can kind of paint a picture. And it says, and others that had run together into caves nearby to keep the Sabbath day secretly, being discovered to Philip, who was the governor, were all burnt together. They were burnt alive for keeping the Sabbath day. Now, Jake, you don't even want to keep the Sabbath day. You waiting for the sun to go down. Our forefathers were burnt alive for keeping the Sabbath day, because they had made a conscience to help themselves for the honor of the most sacred day. So these things were happening to our nation around the time of Antiochus IV, Ptolemy over there in Egypt, right? You get the book of First Maccabees. Actually, that's but you got it.
I was kind of playing. I really had nothing on that. I was kind of playing up on tables.
Let me get back into this article then. All right. In the time between the return of the Israelite exiles and the rise of the Roman emperors, the land of Judea was caught between two ruling empires. right? Two ruling powers, as we just went to, the Seleucian and kingdom of Syria, in the north of Ptolemaic Egypt in the south. These kingdoms, both successors of Alexander the Great's broken empire, warred with each other for more than a century while the Israelite nations stand at the crossroads, right? But like the brother said, you can have that anywhere, but it happened in Israel. That's how you know the Most High is the Most High. And then you can read about this in Daniel chapter 11, the 6 Syrian wars, right? The 6 Syrian wars, right? Throughout most of this period, Judea remained in the periphery and was left alone, right? So they were left alone, but until who? Antiochus IV came into power, 170 BCE. The Israelites did not readily fit into the vision for his new empire. Embracing a form of imperial colonialism, Antiochus sought to bring out a sense of cultural uniformity in the hope of creating more socioeconomic stability. This included embracing the Hellenistic way of life in the worship of Greek pantheon, especially Zeus, by taking the epitaph Epiphanes, God manifest, right? Like you said, Marquaz, that's what his name means. Antiochus even claimed to be Zeus incarnate. He was prideful. Many of the pagan nations embraced and worshiped these policies, but in the land of Judea, they caused a cultural civil war, notably among the members of the high priestly families in the midst of turmoil, according to the books of Maccabees and the Jewish historian Josephus. So they reference Maccabees. How is Maccabees not a historical book when you have, wow, scholars referencing this book? And historian Josephus, right? Who Josephus wrote, so I can transcribe the Latin Vulgate, right? He transcribed the Latin Vulgate, right? And it says Antiochus plundered the Jerusalem temple and carried off sacred vessels to help finance his campaigns. And that's when we get into Second Maccabees chapter 6. Con, you got it.
I was gonna say that was Jerome that did that.
Slocky Jerome.
Saint Jerome, yeah.
Yeah, Saint Jerome. Slocky, Saint Jerome in 380. Right.
Yeah, just he did the historical records and books on our people.
Con.
I believe he was a Levite, they say.
Yeah. It's like I got the names mixed up, but yeah, he was a very famous historian too.
Yeah, con.
You know, he kind of
some even say he was a coon though.
You said something
because he did kind of, he wrote the books, then he kind of went back and it was changed his name to Flavian Josephus. Kind of mixed Flavian dynasty and kind of got with, kind of get out with them, but that's for another day.
He helped defend Arianism too, the belief that there's one God and a Son, not a Trinity too, when you go into it. Okay. But yeah, Khan. So you had this man doing these things, man. Antiochus, right? Putting up idolatry. You know, so when you go into this, they call him the most evil, one of those evil men. You know, one of the most evil men. And you read about him a lot in Daniel the 11th, Daniel the 8th chapter, you know, about this man, what he has done, right, to our people. The notorious forgotten villain. You know, let me see if
I was gonna say too in that article, it had said that he didn't see the Jews deemed fit for his kingdom. What does that mean? What do you mean you don't see the Jews fit for your kingdom? So he just wanted to exterminate all the race of the Jews, which is off. That lets you know that, Esau, out of every nation, he hates you, Jake. Stop saying a white man can make it. He literally said you weren't fit for his nation. So Jake got to come out that coon-like spirit and mentality and stop trying to say the so-called white man.
Yeah. You have to stop. And they've been doing it since the beginning. That's how we know we're the Israelites. They've been doing it since the beginning. Jake is still doing it now. They're back on earth. They're doing it right now.
Right. Uncle Ruckus.
Yeah, anything else on this?
Con,
I want to add an article. I want to kind of pull it up real quick. Kind of going into the Battle of Corinth. I don't know if you had anything on that.
Oh, Con. I ain't got nothing about Corinth, but I could go to Daniel though. Show that switch.
Oh man.
And the brother also brought out a good piece up in the group chat. I forgot to read it. not in the group chat, but in the chat. Sirach, brother Don Israel, Sirach chapter 10 9. It says, "Why is earth and ashes proud? There is not a more wicked thing than a covetous man. For such as one saith his own soul, setteth his own soul to sale, because while he liveth, he casteth away his bowels." And that's Alexander the Great, and that's Antiochus Epiphanes the Fourth. All right, why is earth and ashes proud? You thinking you Zeus back on the earth, and you're calling yourself God is manifest, and the Most Highs have you go out and all in all type of ways. I want to get this quick precept in Second Maccabees, chapter 15.
Huh.
Like the more powerful and puffed up you are, the bigger your destruction is gonna be and your downfall. So this Second Maccabees chapter 15. Maybe Second Maccabees. Let me see. I think it's the 9th chapter. Second Maccabees 9.
Oh, yeah,
Second
9.
Maccabees 9 and 4. Yep. Second Maccabees chapter 9. This is dealing with Antiochus. When he I believe it's the account when he came back from slipping my mind, but he came back because he lost the war and he sought, to destroy the race of the Jews, paraphrasing. But this Second Maccabees chapter 9 and verse number 4. Oh, he came from Persia. That's what it was. He came from Persia. He got denied, got overthrown, and he got so mad that he took his anger out of all his whole nation that he had. He wanted to take his anger out on the Jews. I'm gonna start at verse 1. Right, Second Maccabees 9 and 1, and it says, "About the time came Antiochus with dishonor out of the country of Persia, for he had entered the city of Persepolis and went about to rob the temple and to hold the city. Whereupon the multitude running to defend themselves with their weapons, put them to flight. And so it happened that Antiochus, being put to flight, of the inhabitants returned with shame. Now when he came to Ecbatana, news was brought to him what had happened unto Nicanor and to Timotheus," right? Because we was, overcoming them and destroying their main generals in battle. It says, "Then swelling with anger, he thought to avenge upon the Jews the disgrace done unto him by those that made him disgrace done unto him by those that made him flee. Therefore commanded he his chariot man to drive without ceasing to dispatch the journey." So he told his man to go out, drive without ceasing, and overcome Jerusalem and overtake it. It says the judgment of God now following him, for he has spoken proudly in this sort, that he will come to Jerusalem and make it a common burying place for the Jews. So this man was so puffed up and mad with wicked zeal, he said he was going to make Jerusalem a common burial spot for the Jews. That's off. Imagine a graveyard, you go in there, you seeing, the certain tombstones and it's set in a specific area in the city. This man said he wanted to make that a Jerusalem, just a whole city, a graveyard full of Jews, because he got denied. That's off. Verse 5, it says, "But Yahweh, the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, smote him with the incurable plague. For as soon as he had spoken these words, a pain of the bowels that was remediless came upon them," meaning they couldn't cure it. There was no remedy to cure this plague that the Most High sent upon them. It says, "and sore torments in his inner parts." So the Most High tormented this man bowels on the inside of his stomach. That's what the Lord will do to you if you puffed up, you prideful. You're gonna be like the so-called white man, right? You getting puffed up, you think you can overthrow everything is of you. Guess what? The Most High, he'll torment your stomach and your bowels. Right? Verse 6. It says, "And that most justly, for he had tormented other men's bowels with many and strange torments. And the Most High mocked him." Right? He tormented men in their bowels, so the Most High tormented him in his bowels. It says, "Howbeit, he nothing at all ceased from his bragging, but was filled with pride. It says, breathing out fire and rage against the Jews, and commanded to haste the journey. But it came to pass that he fell down from his chariot, carried violently, so that having a sore fall, all the members of his bodies were much pain. And when we go into it, that's how the Most High kind of overthrew him. All right, he started having this wicked stench that came about his body that his men didn't even want to carry him, and he kind of gave up the ghost. And that's what the Most High to do to you. And now it's his overthrow through the Spirit. Well, Antiochus Epiphanes the fourth and his great pride. But you got it.
Come. Let me get this book real quick in Revelations, because you understand these people are filled with pride. You know, they're filled with pride. Even Esau now is not going to repent. You think he's going to repent for the things he's done? No. It's Revelation chapter 9 and verse 21. Neither repented they of their murders, nor of their sorceries, nor of their fornications, nor of their thefts. So these Edomites, even in these last days, are not going to repent of the things that they stole from us, or the fornications that they have done with the people of the world, the nations, all the witchcraft and sorceries they have put on our people through propaganda, music, media, right? Hollywood, baby's blood. They're not going to repent from that, nor of their murders and the killings of the saints. So the Lord's going to get up with these Edomites, especially. But you know, brothers talk about it all the time. Lord willing, you know, we make it to the kingdom. Who's going to have this guy in the kingdom? Who's going to have him? Who's going to have Antiochus Epiphanes as a slave? Because this man was wicked, man. You know? But moving along. Right? Moving along. Let's get this. Now, we went into the beginning of the Grecian Empire, starting with Alexander the Greek, the battles that kind of got him into there. Right? The battles a little bit after that, he took down India, the dividing of the four generals, going into Antiochus IV. Now, this is the decline of the empire, right? The Battle of Corinth, 146 BC, the decisive end of the Achaean War. Because who did you have ruling around this time? You had the Romans ruling. You had the Roman Empire ruling around this time. Let's get that real quick. First Maccabees chapter 8 and verse number 1. First Maccabees 8 and verse 1. Right? It's like, give me 2 seconds, King.
And I can bring it out, and then he can, break it down whenever he come back. All right, it's the book of First Maccabees, chapter 8.
Come back.
Okay, I was gonna read it for you.
Come.
But you got it if you know.
The water. Let me kind of get into this real quick. It's First Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 8. Now Judas had heard of the fame of the Romans, that they were mighty and valiant men, and such as was lovingly accept all that joined themselves unto them, and make a league of amity with all that came unto them. So Judas, during the time of the Romans, or the Romans during the time of the Hasmonean dynasty, which is some history that we're going to touch on next week, Lord willing, we'll get into that. Right? But the Romans were the Roman Republic at the time, and they were up and coming. So they, at that time, was looking for a lot of alliances, and Judas and his brothers were one of their alliances. And they that were men of great valor was told him also of their wars and noble acts, which they had done amongst the Galatians, and how they had conquered them and brought them under tribute, and what they had done in the country of Spain for the winning of the mines of the silver and the gold, which was there. So Judas had heard of all these things. He heard of the fame of the Romans, and it was a good strategy for him to be allied with the Romans during his dynasty. So you had the Romans that were there during that time, right? Even during the time of Antiochus the fourth, Antiochus the third, Antiochus the fifth, all the way down to Antiochus the sixth, where they lost the kingdom, right, to the Romans. Let's go to First Maccabees chapter 12. Right, it's First Maccabees 12 and 1. And it says, now when Jonathan saw that the time served them, he chose certain men and sent them to Rome for to confirm and renew the friendship that they had with them. So they were just confirming the league that they had with each other. That's what these nations do, right? They confirm the league, or they confirm the covenant that they have with each other, just kind of renew their friendship, right? It says he sent letters to the Lacedaemonians and to other places for the same purpose. So then when they went to Rome and entered into the Senate and said, Jonathan the high priest and the people of the Jews sent us unto you, to the end you shall renew the friendship which had with them in a league as in the former time. Upon this that the Romans gave them letters unto the governors of every place, that they should bring them into the land of Judea peaceably. And this is the copy of the letters which Jonathan wrote to the Lacedaemonians, right? Jonathan the high priest and the elders of the nations and the priests and the other people of the Jews unto the Lacedaemonians, to their brethren send greetings. So the Lacedaemonians over there in the Roman Empire, they were actually brothers to the Jews, man, to Jonathan, to Judas, because you had Jews over there in Rome. You had Jews over there in the Roman Republic, the Lacedaemonians, right? But my point was to go to show you that you had the Romans living during around this time. But you got it, King. The Roman Empire.
I ain't had too much on that.
So let's get into it.
Plain up on tape.
Go here. All right. It says in 146 BC, the Battle of Corinth signified a defining moment in the history of ancient Greece. Situated on a narrow strip of land connecting the Peloponnese to the mainland of Greece, Corinth was a city-state with a significant strategic and economic position. It connects with the Aegean and Adriatic seas, made it to the center of trade and cultural exchange. However, this prosperity also placed Corinth at the heart of conflict during a tumultuous period of Greek history, leading to the fateful conflict known as the Battle of Corinth, right? So this place kind of connected that, right? The Battle of Corinth, which is the decisive battle between the Greeks and the Romans. I'm kind of scroll down. This is Edomites versus Edomites, by the way.
Right.
Right. Edomites versus Edomites.
Edomites hate.
So like my computer's acting slow, man. It's Satan, man. There we go. It's like, let me refresh my screen because now all of a sudden it's going a lot slower than it was going, man. But we gonna touch on this, man. We gonna touch on the Achaean League versus the Roman Republic, man, and how the Greeks started to decline in power and how the Romans started to increase in power. All right after this. Right, had a lot of conflicts, had a lot of disagreements. I mean, even during the Hasmonean dynasty, that's the history we didn't really get to touch on, but we're going to touch that on that next week, Lord willing, through the Spirit. Right now, diving into the Judas and his brethren. We kind of wanted to paint the picture of the Greeks first before we dive into the Hasmonean dynasty, because if you don't understand how the Grecian Empire was even coming into power or going out of power, the kings that ruled during that time, you're not going to understand, the Hasmonean dynasty started with Judas all the way down to his brother, man, Aristobulus, leading into the Herod the Great. Shalaki. All right, there we go. Right. Then it says, the battle was a culmination of rising tensions between the Roman Republic and the Achaean League, a coalition of Greek city-states seeking to establish their independence and resist Roman domination. The confrontation not only marked a turning point for Corinth itself, but also put an end to the power of the Greek city-states in the face of Rome's expanding empire. So this battle, put an end to the put an end to the Greek city-states, right, during Rome's expansion. So we had to touch on the whole overview of the Greeks, the coming into power. What happened during that time? Who was oppressing us during that time? What what kings played a role, what battles happened, and now we have to go into the decline of the empire. What happened as well? What you got it, King?
Yeah, and also mentioned this book I showed you earlier. No, this is a good book, right? It says the Smithsonian History of Map and World Map. It's like of the world map by map. So I don't know if it's a
You can't
QC
see
is
your
good.
camera.
You can't see
No,
my
your camera
camera.
not on. Yeah, it's not on. It says. Let me see.
Say it's
Oh,
on.
no, I see. I see it. It's fine.
It's on.
Con.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so this is a good book. Brothers and sisters should kind of tap in with, and it shows a lot of in-depth history on a lot of these ancient civilizations. I mean, a lot of ancient civilizations. This specifically touching on the classical age and going into that Roman period, about the Greeks, going into the ancient Greeks through the Dark Ages and the modern day Greeks. Kind of get the timeline at the bottom. So this whole book is really fire. And it recently just got published. Just touches all the way, the COVID-19 so called, or the flu, the CL-19, I should say. So like, nevertheless, that's a good book referencing a lot of the historical things that we brought out today through the Spirit. So I want to bring out this quick precept, Hebrews 2 and verse number 1, right? And it reads, therefore we ought to give the more earnest heed to the things which we have heard, lest at any time we should let them slip. And it will be a wise thing to get most earnest heed to the things that we learn. Learn this information, you want to lock it in, take it down in your notes, or do your own research, study up more on it. Nevertheless, you want to kind of learn these things and add on to it. Let me get that in Proverbs. I believe that's Proverbs 1 and 5 real quick. All right, Proverbs chapter 1 and verse 5. And it says, a wise man will hear and will increase learning, and a man of understanding shall attain unto wise counsel. And it's always something new to learn in this truth. It's not just, precepts, and 1,000 more of the precepts. No, along with the precepts, you got applying the precepts. Or you got the history that backs up the precepts. You have, it's always something new to learn in this truth. New wisdom being added every day, new breakdowns through the Spirit. So you want to make sure that you're getting this wisdom and knowledge while these waters and these cisterns are actually open unto us, and it's not shut up, because it's gonna come a time where the Most High shuts all of this up. The live streams, the breakdown videos, the edification, etc. So we want to make sure that we taking the time to, take these things into account and not just, take it for granted, all the wisdom and knowledge and the living waters that we have out nowadays through the Spirit. And, there's a lot we could have touched on with the Greeks, 2nd Edges, the 11th and 12th chapter, touching on the eagle. Little brother, I don't know if a brother mentioned that in that chat earlier, but, you got 2nd Edges you could have, broke down, but it's a lot of information that you still got to search out on your own as well. So these things aren't hid up anymore. The Most High has revealed these things to us. So, again, we want to take advantage of these things. But you got it.
Con. We go to the book of Amos, chapter 8 and verse 11. Like the brother said, this is not forever. Breakdowns, videos, brothers preach on the highways and byways, breaking down history, going over the prophecies. This is not going to be forever. It's not this is hot and ready. This is a sale going on. Get it while you can, because once you're not able to get this oil, the Lord will tell you, go and buy for yourselves, man. So we gotta get this now. This is going to help you understand the book of First and Second Maccabees a lot more. Understanding secular history, understanding what's actually going on in the New Testament, and why Paul is the things that he's saying based off the influence and the cultural background around that time. You have to understand these things, the setting, right? And it says, the book of Amos 8 and 11, behold, the days come, saith the Lord God, that I will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread, nor of thirst for water, but of hearing the words of the Lord. And they shall wander from sea to sea, and from north even to the east. They shall run to and fro to seek the word of the Lord, and shall not find it. And that day shall the fair virgins and young men faint for thirst. And they're gonna be thirsty. You're gonna be thirsty. You're gonna desire to hear the words of the Lord, that live in waters, the bread of the Lord. So I mean, there's always like the brother Larry Ross said, man. There's always work to do, man. There's always work to do for the Most High. So that's why we got to go into this. We got to go into this history. We got to go into these different things to break it down and to show Israel, like, look, man. This history is important, especially with validating the scriptures. But you got it, King. If you got any closing precept.
Kind of got one closing. It's Sirach. Bro, let me back it up what the brother said. It's always work to do for the Most High. All right, the classic that we always bring out, Sirach 43 and verse number 30. And it reads, when you glorify Yahweh, exalt him as much as ye can, for even yet will he far exceed. And when ye exalt him, put forth all your strength, and be not weary, for ye can never go far enough. Right? And the Most High said we can never go far enough when it comes to serving him, worshiping him, laboring for him, reading, praying, fasting for him, delivering up spiritual sacrifices unto him. It's always work to be done in his truth. So don't ever feel like, it's you did enough or you reached your max peak, your limit. There is no such thing as I reached my limit. No, the sky's the limit. The Lord is the limit. So you want to make sure that you want to keep increasing as much as you can. And sincerity, through the spirit and power of the Most High Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, and taking in his wisdom and knowledge. Because again, it's not always going to be opened up. It's going to come times where these things are going to be shut up. So you want to get it while you can. We all trying to get it while we can, but you got it.
That's right. You have to get it while you can, man. Especially when these days are coming, where like we're going into, where Jacob's troubles are around the corner. These elections, there's going to be a civil war. Lord willing, there's going to be a civil war. Just following what's happening on the earth. If you're watching, if you're seeing these things, But I mean, stay diligent, Israel. Continue to watch these prophecies. Continue to celebrate this mighty, beautiful Sabbath new moon through the Spirit. And with that, we'd like to give our praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, been a mighty strong. Shalom.
Shalom.